Today's sponsor is Loot Crate. For less than $20 a month, Loot Crate gives the geek in you a special treat every month. Loot Crate is a subscription box service with more than $40 worth of geek, gamer, and pop culture gear, collectibles, apparel, comics, etc. delivered to your mailbox every month. This month's theme is time, and quite appropriately, we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future in the month and year Marty McFly travels to in Back to the Future Part 2, the timeless appeal of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and the timey-wimey charm of Doctor Who. You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cutoff happens, Jack, that's it! It's over. So go to lootcrate.com/kindafunny and enter the code kindafunny to save $3 on your new subscription today. Today's episode was brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the easiest way to create a beautiful website, blog, or online store for you and your ideas. Squarespace features an elegant interface, beautiful templates, and incredible 24/7 customer support. Try Squarespace at squarespace.com and enter the offer code kindafunny at checkout to get 10% off. Squarespace. Build it beautiful. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GameOverGreggy Show. I am one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Top of the morning to you, Greg.
Top of the muffin to you. It's the afternoon. You just ate an apple.
I did. I made a little bet with myself to see how far I could get into the apple before we actually started the show, because there's a lot of shenanigans that happen before this.
Right.
Kevin is always there, and he acts like he's ready to go. And then you are not. We're not. And then by the time we are ready to go, Kevin's off pouring himself a 2-liter bottle of Coke in the living room, doing whatever. Maybe he's rolling around on the carpet, scratching his own back. I don't know.
You got it all wrong. The thing with Kevin is that he needs to be doing, I'm going to say 10. I don't want to offend you. I know it's more than that, but at least 10 things at once.
Yeah.
And it's just, he's never just complacent. He's never, feeling good about himself. And he wants to make sure that he's asking as many questions as possible at all times to as many people as possible.
Which is getting really grating to Greg, especially. I love it. Greg's answers to Kevin are getting more and more
Kurt.
Yeah, that's a word for it.
It's just because Kevin and I have a relationship. We understand each other. He's one of the hardest working men. He makes kind of funny run, and he knows that he gets the brunt of it. And it is because he asks annoying, nonsensical fucking questions when I'm clearly in the knee deep in 3 other tasks.
Yeah.
My favorite was the other day when you were rerouting a modem.
He was doing that.
You were trying to set up the Skype call, and you had like 8 computers around you. You look like Hugh Jackman from Swordfish.
Yeah, great movie.
And Kevin's like, "Hey, Greg," and you just know when he starts off with "Hey,"
it's over.
You know he doesn't need to be asking that question, and you knew that, and you were like, "Not now, Kevin." So not now,
but
Kevin.
That's the thing. Kevin gets it. Kevin gets it. That like when I say "not now," it's not. He understands that we are at maximum capacity for his bullshit questions.
They're not bullshit. It's just there's different questions that come up. They're fucking random as shit.
They're unnecessary.
I don't want to do something, and then someone will walk in and be like, "What the fuck is this like this?"
I hear you. No, it makes sense. But you get it. That's the best thing. There's plenty of people I remember in the old job and somebody comes over and you're short with them and they take it personally. Kevin never takes it personally. Kevin knows.
Yeah.
No, we don't want him to stop asking the questions.
No.
I'd prefer.
I don't ever want him to stop asking the questions.
We definitely do.
But
that's just because you have this sick fuck thing about you.
I don't ask them any of the questions.
That's the pure one.
Bullshit.
That's
Are
the
you
pure
kidding
one,
me?
Tim
I
Gettys.
ask you stupid questions all the time just to mess with you.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. There's this really bad thing that goes on where Kevin and Nick just fucking bully me. That's all they do.
Yeah.
It's like they team up and just fucking fuck with me all day.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there. Then you ask me a question I actually want to answer, and every time I'm trying to give you an answer, and mid answer, Kevin will come in and ask me some shit. Hey, where are we going to dinner tonight?
That is the one thing Kevin doesn't have any awareness. Like if it was like a Madden game where he had all the stats broken down, his awareness would be like 2 of 100. Because he just like blurts in, he like busts in like Kramer in the middle of whatever the fuck's happening.
That really is accurate.
I often wondered when I was younger. I don't know why I was wondering this. I wondered a lot of weird things, but what if you had like a 1,000 word cap every day, and all you could say was 1,000 words or less? What would you do then? How judicious would you be with your own use of language and asking questions that don't need to be or just saying stupid things? And 1,000 words might be too much some days, but I bet you most days it's not enough.
Yeah.
I'd
Life finds
blow
a way.
through that on the way here. Sometimes I
To
just
yourself?
Oh yeah. Sometimes I have those weird I'll go off on tangents to myself, or I'll just have those rage moments where I'll just start screaming at things for no reason, and then I'll be like, I just gotta get it all out before I come here, just so I have a little more patience with.
Yeah.
See, and right there, you use like 30 words.
Yeah.
So imagine like
Yeah,
not having.
And make these shows really hard to do.
Yeah.
But it would be Long Island. Colin
Thank you. It would be It would be some people. We'd have more meaningful things to say, maybe, or maybe some people would go in the opposite direction and just say this even stupider.
So
things.
what would happen then? Like
when you're out,
yeah,
just shrugs and you go home, or you just
but I mean,
work
you're out of
quietly at your
words,
desk.
and then you just like, is it like?
Yeah, that's it. Like that's just a hypothetical. Like you just can't talk. It's illegal.
If it's
something.
like video games,
illegal.
there'd
Ooh, I like
be
that.
microtransactions.
It's like
you could buy a pack of
Oh my
words.
god, a pack of words.
It's a
buy
future
100 words
dystopian.
for,
No,
50
I don't
bucks.
like that. There's a 1,000-word limit. There's no way around it.
Not even the microtransactions. What if the money's going to you?
No, I don't want your money.
Is there any? Do you get anything for free?
I don't need it.
Like, can you get like free adjectives? Just adjectives?
No. Every word counts.
Okay.
Nouns, pronouns, adjectives.
Okay.
Yeah.
How'd
Everything.
you get around just using adjectives? How you doing,
know.
Tim? Red. And I guess I'd be, red means bad.
Well, no, I'm just thinking
Tim,
of
what's
like,
wrong?
you know, when you play
Angry. Talking like a caveman. That must have been, though. That's a good point. Adjectives must have been the initial. It must have been the first way that people started to communicate with each other, right? Through like very base descriptive words, right?
Well, because we didn't have those descriptive words yet. Very base words, sure.
Oh, so nouns might have been
Nouns
first.
have to have been first, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Nouns
you.
must have been. Yeah, exactly. Me, you, tree, rock.
Is
Then
hella,
it was like
what's hella?
brown rock.
Does hella
Hella's an
count as an adjective?
Yeah, it's a descriptor.
it's
Yeah,
it's an
okay.
adjective.
Describing a noun.
So yeah, if I had adjectives, I'd be fine.
Wait, is it?
Hella. Tim, you want
Wouldn't
to
it
drink?
be-
Hella.
isn't it,
It'd just be hella. All you need to use is hella.
I mean, it'd be
Well, it depends on how it's being used, but
Similar to
if
how
it's-
it
Well,
is
every
now.
time
If
you use
it's-
it, wouldn't it be an adverb? Because like that's hella cool.
Yeah, that's
hella
actually-
can't stand alone. How,
That's true.
What-
Well, it could.
Hella big.
no, that's because that's. Oh, I see what
You
you're
could be
saying.
an
I see what you're
adjective.
saying.
That's hella fun. Hella big. Hella red.
But isn't that
No, wait, no, that's
what's
not right.
the definition of an adverb?
hella fast. Yeah.
The
that'd be an
modifier.
So
adverb.
what's
the
vary? The word vary.
Very. It depends on what it's before,
Oh god.
doesn't it?
I don't want to
know
go
what
down
it's
this
preceding.
hole. This is bringing me back to fucking college.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
like
this,
it.
yeah, magazine editing. I just got through with the skin of my teeth. I'm gonna go back to this.
My God.
Sorry, Jen, back at Mizzou. If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Game Over Greggy show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather around this table. Each bring a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny and toss us a few bucks to get each and every episode early, along with bonus episodes and cool perks. If you don't want to do any of that because you don't have the money, no big deal. Head over to youtube.com/kindafunny where we break it out topic by topic, day by day, until we post the entire show for free on Friday on MP3 services and at YouTube.
It's a good place.
Thank you.
Do you think Portillo likes it when I do that to his ears?
I think Portillo's just happy if anyone acknowledges him.
Yeah, he just wants to be loved.
We call
He's
him
very
homeless dog though,
loved.
when his ears are inside out.
Homeless dog?
Homeless dog.
Why?
Because he's not put together no more. Right now, let's bring
It's not put together no more. Speaking of language.
Right now, this is a dog. This is a dog that could be on the RSS Titanic, just chilling out.
Yeah.
He's out there. He's at a fancy dinner. He's gonna eat there with the unsinkable Molly
He's got a
Brown,
high
right?
pedigree.
This is a dog who's seen some shit. Oh, actually, hold on. This is a dog who's like, look at the camera, you piece of garbage dog. This is a dog who's seen some things. He's down on his luck. He might turn it around. He's not in the soup lines yet or whatever. And then this is a dog who's steerage. This is a dog who is just nobody wants.
He's river dancing down on the bottom floor. Of the
Exactly,
Titanic.
exactly,
Maybe he's also
exactly,
missing a
exactly.
paw.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
They
no.
call him all paw leg.
Look how sad he
I know.
got.
Look, he doesn't like it. See, but you put him back here. He's right back to being a fancy pup.
We call him paw leg.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
No, not
If
really.
you-
no.
But remember, it's kind of.
Here we
It's
go.
because what it is
I hate when you drag me into your madness.
it's.
I
Oh,
don't
I
like
know. It's a bit more clever than you're giving it credit for. Because
Yeah.
it's a play on peg leg.
No, it's
they're on a
exactly
boat.
what I
So
meant.
we call him peg leg because that's just 2 on the nose, but you call him paw leg. Where's old paw leg? Oh, he's down there. And
I
then,
don't know about this one.
But when Rose is there, she's like, "Who's paw leg?" And then this dog comes up and he's got the one wooden leg. And she's like,
But,
"Oh my
but
god!"
If, but if you called him paw leg, wouldn't that mean that his legs have paws on them?
Well, they do technically already. Oh, listeners, you picked a good one.
You can't argue with them, Colin. I don't know how you even bother.
Colin, your topic number 1. What's happening?
I don't know what's happening. That's a good question. So I have a funny one today, or I think it depends on where you guys take it. But I thought last Thursdayism was gonna be a funny one, and you guys ruined that topic. So let's see what you do to this one. Egyptian.
Colin always forgets he does the show with us and not 3 other Collins. He always thinks he's gonna come in with this political debate. It's gonna be this awesome thing.
What was political about last Thursdayism?
I'm just saying in general.
So we. Egyptians. I want to talk about Egyptians, ancient Egyptians, specifically about burial of like wealthy people or monarchs and stuff like that. So here's what Wikipedia says under burial goods, because I'm curious what you guys would want to be buried with if you were a rich Egyptian back in the day. It says, although the types of burial goods changed throughout ancient Egyptian history, their purpose to protect the deceased and provide sustenance to the afterlife remained. From the earliest periods of Egyptian history, all Egyptians were buried with at least some goods that they thought were necessary after death. At a minimum, these consisted of everyday objects such as bowls, combs, and other trinkets along with food. Wealthier Egyptians could afford to be buried with jewelry, furniture, and other valuables, which made them targets of tomb robbers. In the early dynastic period, tombs were filled with daily life objects such as furniture, jewelry, and other valuables. They also contained many pottery and stone vessels. As burial customs developed in the Old Kingdom, wealthy citizens were buried in wooden or stone coffins, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes, and I don't know if it's in here, I'm not going to read the whole thing, people were even buried with really wealthy people. Like, they would just bury you alive. So, or put you in a tomb if you were like a servant or something like that.
Were you going of your own accord? Or were they like forcing you down there?
My assumption, I don't know much about Egyptology, my assumption is that this was part of
the deal.
It was the deal?
Yeah.
Man.
So if my let's assume we were wealthy Egyptians, but we were living not in the ancient times, but today.
Ah, okay.
And you and someone or your group were erecting a tomb to hold you. What would you want to be buried with that you would need in the next life?
PlayStation Vita. I would want if we're in this time and we're playing now, I need money. I need coins, of course, because he had to pay the ferryman. The ferryman.
That's not Egyptian though.
Right? What was that?
What the fuck?
That was Roman.
About?
No, I want that for this. It just sounds.
I think that was Roman or Greek. Yeah.
No, but
right?
that
was Greek, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Greek or Roman. Charon, which is the moon of Pluto, is the ferryman to the dead, and they would put coins on your eyes to pay the ferryman to take you over to
Some Game of Thrones.
But isn't there a reason the Egyptians were buried with money as well?
Because they needed money in the
fancy
afterlife.
like that.
Just in general. Okay.
Same reason they were buried with bowls so they can put food in them.
Well, sure. Then and that's the thing too.
Or smoke a bowl. I don't know if that was what they were intending.
No,
that was
wrong kind of bowls. I think. I'd want food. I want chicken wings. Put some chicken wings down there with me. I'll stop there for right now. I'll come back to you.
So chicken wings,
Vita,
chicken wings,
money.
Yeah, that's all you need.
I assume
Portillo's and little condoms for your baby dick.
Yeah,
Should you meet
because
a new woman in the afterlife?
In the afterlife, I ain't knocking anybody up.
Really?
There ain't no. I got ghost sperm. I ain't gonna hit the ghost egg and make a ghost.
Oh, so you're gonna bang, but you're not gonna.
Fuck yeah, I'm banging. You kidding me?
Gotcha,
Think of all the beautiful broads that have gone up to heaven after it all went bad. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Everyone from the RSS Titanic.
The unsinkable Molly Brown. No, she's not dead. No, she is. Well, she's dead, but not from that. You know what I mean.
You thought Kathy Bates.
Yes.
Kathy Bates is
still alive.
But I'll be chilling and waiting for Kathy
Bates.
Yeah,
just waiting one day.
Yeah.
This reminds me of a
Kathy Bates
YouTube
is your
video
sex
that
fantasy?
just dropped that everyone needs to check out called Handjob Cabin.
Yes.
And it's a trailer for like a horror movie.
Yeah.
And you know horror movies, everyone ends up just having sex and then dying.
Yeah.
It's pretty much that, but it's handjobs. There's this ghost that like
Gives
the
handjobs?
plot of it is there was like a teen that was given a hand job, her first hand job, and then like it was too vigorous and she hit herself in the head and fell out a window and died. And then like a year later, like a group of teens goes to this cabin and the ghost is just giving everyone rough hand jobs till they die.
It's pretty goddamn.
That's good. I like that.
Tim always sends me links, it's like, you got to watch this now, and very seldom do I do. But for some reason I clicked on this one and I was happy to see the title, which was Handjob Cabin HD. And it delivers. It delivers on it. There's actually a part in it where they go to get Lubriderm, some sort of lotion that's all dusty, and then she won't use it because she likes it rough. And that's how
we can't give a rough hand job if you lube it up. You give a different kind of hand job.
There's like a part where the guy's like crying and spitting on his own dick. It's a good trailer.
Is it going to be a full movie?
No, it was just a funny trailer.
Just
But the
really
production
well-made
value
trailer.
is insane.
All right, I'll check it out after this.
Anyway, you banging your dead people reminded me of this.
Same, man. In the afterlife, you don't have to worry about babies.
Yeah. Wow.
Or STDs.
I mean, do we know that? Can there just be little?
We're not bringing a new life into the undead world.
Okay.
That doesn't make any sense. That's nonsense.
I'm gonna take this in a really different direction.
Thank you.
When I was younger, I had this little stuffed dog that I loved dearly. His name was Mr. Woofers.
Nice.
I want Mr. Woofers with me. I feel
Is
like
he still around, Mr.
Oh, he's
Woofers?
still around.
Okay.
Yeah, he chills with my mom these days.
Gotcha.
But I want him, and he'll be with me. I definitely need some Coke.
Sure.
It needs to be good Coke. A fair amount of Coke. Probably as much Coke as you could possibly fit.
And you're talking about Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Okay.
Yes. I want
Nick.
some nice headphones.
Okay.
Like
Some
nicer
Beats, like Beats
headphones
by
than
Dre.
I've ever had. Not Beats by Dre. I want real
They don't get
expensive
nicer than
headphones.
Beats by Dre.
Beats by Dre.
I
is the
think
best
they
headphone.
might have already done that. But I want that, and then I don't know. It's maybe like a Lunchables.
Oh, Lunchables.
Mhm.
Fuck
One-
you.
No, Lunchables.
You're as bad as this idiot who's making the pizzas on those Patreon.
Well, see, that was the
expenses.
thing. Kevin, like when, like earlier, we were
good.
kind of like
Yeah,
Colin
we're
brought
really
this up like a week ago or whatever. Kevin suggested that he be buried with me.
Yeah.
And it's like I hate that idea.
Mhm.
Like I really do. But it's also like he would get things done, you
Yeah.
know? And it's like I don't know. And that's the thing is like I don't have any idea of what I would need to get done when I'm dead.
Sure.
I just don't know how that
Good
works.
point.
Like here's the thing. I thought I'm just laying there chilling, which is why Coke and Mr. Woofers is all I need. But with you have this whole plan to like have a fucking
get all
army
sorry
like
out.
banging everyone and just doing all
Not
this
everyone, but I'm just saying.
You're gonna bang though.
I'm gonna bang.
stuff. Yeah, and it's like I mean shit, I didn't
An
really think about
eternity of
that.
banging.
So it's like I think I might need Kevin not to bang, but to all options.
Are on the table.
But
thing-
yeah.
The one thing I'm curious about with rampant afterlife otherworld banging
Sure.
is, does moving to the afterlife break earthly contracts? So, for instance, your marriage,
Yeah.
and does it also erase?
Yeah, till death do us part.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
death do us part.
So that's what I was getting to. And does it also erase? Kind of like promises or like I'm in an exclusive relationship? And my instincts tell me that once you're not on this earthly plane anymore, all bets are off.
Yeah.
And you can start banging and doing all sorts of heinous things to other dead
Ghosts,
people. Is
yeah.
that right? Does that sound
I
right?
don't
to
see.
you?
I don't know. I don't know about that
Yes.
because there's the area code rule, and that rule doesn't exist. Unless you.
But that's a
Chris.
joke.
Yeah.
It's one
There
of those
ain't nothing
things.
funny about banging in the afterlife.
Once you're dead and you're in
This
the
is dead
afterlife,
serious.
and you can have sex with whoever you want, whether it's Gil Montgomery or the unsinkable Molly Brown. None of
you
the-
are gonna fuck the unsinkable Riley Brown. I know it. I know you
I'm
are.
just laying the foundation right now. Is all I'm saying. But once you get up there,
She's
you
watching you right now,
What's up, Molly?
dripping.
Like ectoplasm, of course. Because she's a ghost from her vagina. Now, the thing about it is, once you're up there, you don't like the worries and the little things that get you down on a day-to-day basis. You don't have to worry about it then anymore. So I think you can travel to. This is like the Seinfeld episode. You can travel the cosmos. You can go wherever. You can do whatever you need to see. You see everything. You can know everything. You're not gonna be hung up anymore on like. Who you're in love. You love everybody. It's the afterlife. Everybody's up there, and if you're seeing them, it's heaven. So they're good people too, and
It's
everything.
like the 1960s. I like it.
Yeah. This sounds.
Yeah.
That's
They
free
call
love,
it the
man.
afterlife of love.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds cool. I'm
Yeah.
down for this. In that case, condoms.
Again, no ghost babies or STDs.
Yeah, but
condoms make it just more special. It's more exciting. 'cause the
Condoms
condom-
ruin
Because
everything.
the condom might break. You know what I mean? And you're like, well, what are we gonna do now? You know what I mean? It's sexy.
Nick wants you to bury only one condom
Just
so that he
one
has.
condom.
But
or
it's
I'll reuse it if need be. I don't know. I think I don't know. I mean, I would want for sure to make sure that no matter what, whether or not Tim wants it, Kevin's in that
Oh yeah.
tomb with him.
God damn
That's
it.
for sure. So I don't.
Now
as far
is
as me, I
Kevin
don't know.
dead yet?
No.
Okay, good.
No. This
Kevin,
is
are you
assuming
going in
that-
willingly?
No, it doesn't matter.
I'd make it work.
He'd make
Okay.
it work. Kevin would have like a
Probably
flat screen
suffocate,
TV.
but other than that,
Yeah.
it'll be no.
There'll be a
He'd have a little chute. You know how they had he had to have a little chute built in so people could just slide him the pizza Lunchables right into his mouth.
He would definitely have that, and he would definitely have some vent system, and he would definitely have a surplus of HDMI cables coming from
Yeah,
everywhere.
just everywhere.
Because he needs
Wouldn't
to make sure that there's not an angle he's turning that some TV is not connected somewhere
Yeah.
with different fucking feeds,
Yeah.
because he can't just fucking watch one thing. I hate you so much, Kevin.
I like the idea of the reverse grave robbery, which is Tim dies first. Nick breaks into Tim's tomb not to steal anything, but to place Kevin in the tomb, and then he seals it. The reverse grave robbery. It's never been done before.
Yeah.
Until Nick's done. He's like, you're not buried with enough shit. So we're gonna bring you.
keep doing that.
Go in there and replace all the
totally do
Coke
that.
with RC Cola.
Oh my god,
that'd be
no.
the best.
No,
playing
no.
pranks.
That's some-
or like
that's
whatever
horrible.
that
Afterlife
Safeway
prank.
cola is, Refresh, whatever. The,
Refresh, dude.
you would just get some of that.
That
bad
shit
boy.
sucks.
Oh no.
Yeah,
That
I would
shit-
just build
oh.
your tomb out of it.
Yeah,
So no matter where you looked, there was always Refresh.
On some real shit, fuck Pepsi. Like,
Wow.
Fuck Pepsi.
Dude, Pepsi's good.
But that
It's fine.
Safeway shit,
Yeah.
Pepsi's good.
That's real.
I'm gonna try to
That's
get that
nasty.
Back to the Future Pepsi.
See, that's the thing. I'm down for that because on some collector shit, but like,
I want to drink it.
There's nothing wrong
I
with
ain't
Pepsi.
down for fucking Pepsi.
See, at Andronico's, Pepsi is 20 cents cheaper, so I buy it. Even though I'm buying like exorbitantly expensive everything else, I gotta save that 20 cents on that.
Wait, they're cola you're buying? Sorry.
I'm buying Pepsi.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Nick was talking.
I was not talking.
Someone was
for the
talking.
first time.
Yeah, the voice is in your head.
I've been moderately quiet on this one so far.
I think I would be buried with books and a computer with a good internet connection and unlimited amount of power, video games. See, you said just Vita. I mean, I would want everything. I mean, just put as much into that tomb. Make that tomb as big as possible.
To the cosmos.
Make that tomb as big as possible.
I'll finally have time to platinum.
But you're contradicting yourself in the sense that you're saying that you have innate abilities to understand and know everything.
Right.
But that should happen instantaneously if you have those kinds of powers. So what do you do after the split second that you know everything?
Well,
I'm going to go back in and I'm going to
anything.
earn some trophies, and go about my
I don't know if
business.
it's initially that information is all given to you as much as at your fingertips. I'd want to rewind time, get on Amelia Earhart's plane, just watch.
You want to get on Amelia Earhart's plane?
As the ghost me.
So you know what happened to her?
Yeah. Even though they kind of figured it out, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think they
her
found
thing,
her
and it turned
plane,
out that
yeah.
one of the transmissions they were getting from back in the day that they thought was bullshit was real. And yeah, that's bad. I'm gonna talk to her. Probably bang her.
Yeah. This is weird.
I want to just, you know what? I'm just gonna be Greg's sidekick on this. I just want to watch him get that.
I mean,
ass.
I'm gonna be banging dudes too.
Are you?
Yeah.
Why not?
Just
You're
banging everybody. Free love.
So wait,
the
what you're saying?
cosmos.
I don't like the way you looked at me when you said that. Because I just said I want to hang out with you, and your immediate thought was I'm gonna bang some dude.
I was letting you know what
Dead
you're getting
dude,
in for.
Nick.
So
Greg's like, Nick, I'ma fuck you.
all right. I mean, if that's how we have to go,
We're hitting up
that's how we have
George
to go.
Reeves right away.
Wow. All right.
We want to see what's happening with him. Talk. and then we
George
wanna go
Reeves is
get-
in the old Superman.
And-
George Reeves?
Yeah, go
And Greg-
find out what happened to him too.
And
I can
Greg
talk
wants
to
to
him.
69 George Reeves before he leaves as well, I'm sure.
Sure. I'm gonna start there, and then the afterglow talk will be like, "So did you kill yourself or were you murdered?" I really have been wanting to know.
Oh my god.
I mean, that's something.
Yeah.
And then he
Hey
starts
man,
something.
I'm gonna figure. It's very simple in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Figure out life's mysteries. Fuck everybody.
Yeah.
Damn, man.
It sounds like a fun.
That's how I've been
afterlife.
living my life, like in my head. You know. My
Yeah.
god. I like this topic a lot. I don't
Yeah,
know how
this
we
is
got
fun.
here. Is this good for you?
That's fine.
Do you like this?
It's better than last Thursdayism.
Good.
Talk about fucking Kevin's belly button, which is
Oh,
really
he's
not
showing
a
it-
myth.
he's showing it
Oh
again.
my god!
Oh Jesus!
Is it so?
It's like
clean?
a supermassive black hole.
It looks like It looks like It looks like when the dough goes bad on like a pizza, and like a hole breaks into it, and it's sucking. It's like eating itself. That's what it looks like. Looks like
What is that? I never saw that happening. with
the
dough.
self-eating pizza. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
it looks like it just looks like a whirlpool of dough. It looks like,
You could have just said looks like.
what do they call the maelstrom? That's what it looks like. A
maelstrom?
Yeah, of
A
dough.
storm.
Nick, what's in your tomb?
I don't know that I'd have too much. You guys are already assuming that you're gonna be able to use all this stuff. I mean, you'll be pretty much inanimate. So my first thought was someone's gonna want to rob my tomb just to see what's in
Oh,
it.
so you just booby trap?
Not booby trap, but I would be like, I would want to be buried in whatever like Justin Bieber's wearing like right now, just so that people when they saw me, they'd be like, "What the fuck? What was Nick thinking?" Like a backward trucker hat, maybe a grill that said, "Yeah," like in like black diamonds, like "Yo, what up?" Something like, or like YOLO, yeah. He just says YOLO.
That's amazing.
Just like, and then I'm just like throwing out peace, just throwing out like a peace sign with like a cool varsity jacket.
I love this.
You know what I mean?
That's the
and like
best.
I'm just dying. I'm like, at that point, I would have let my hair grow
Yeah.
out a little bit, so it's like the Raiders of the Lost Ark, where it's just like, so the hair's all crinkly because it's the last thing to go, and I would just be throwing
That's
out.
good.
I
You know
just-
what? Mr. Woofers can stay with you. I'm gonna give him to you.
Yeah.
There's
So
Justin
you're-
Bieber, Nick, and Woofers.
So like, here's my confusion on yours.
Mm-hmm.
You're dressing like this for the people who break into your tomb.
Someone's gonna want to rob my tomb
It's the long
Okay.
game.
because I'm assuming at this point we're all absorbently wealthy based on
Yeah.
Colin's precursors to this. So I think that people like that Nick's gonna have at least something fun in there, and when they get in there, they're gonna be
It's
disappointed.
gonna be totally empty except for you dressed like
I'm
that.
just gonna be maybe like they make a some sort of throne,
Yeah.
out of I don't know, Taco Bell wrappers or something.
Sure.
Something just to kind of, or Starbucks cups probably. That'd be amazing. And just sit me up, just prop me up in it.
It's like Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, it's just exactly like that. Yeah, that'd be fun. Maybe even I have some when they step on one of the parts of the floor, my arm goes up like this. And then comes back
Oh
down.
shit, he's alive!
Shit, what's up? He just
Oh man, Scarpino's still kicking.
Just peace
just said
signs.
what's up.
Just
It's always
constantly
peace
throwing up peace
signs.
signs.
That'd be fun.
That'd be real good. I like that.
He
a lot.
died in 2054, and he's buried in Justin Bieber clothing from 2015.
It's
the
oddly
long
on trend
game.
still.
The
Oddly
long
on
game.
trend.
I like
Yeah,
that
I don't
so
know.
much.
I don't know. I mean, there's not a lot of things that I don't know. There's not a lot of material things that I'm drawn to. I would just,
Movies.
I would
When you want
really,
movies in there.
yeah. I guess I would want like the entire anthology of the Bond films. I would probably want that in there. I would probably want Netflix just to on ever.
So you can Netflix and chill.
Yeah, just Netflix and chill with myself. Is that just
Or
when
on
you're-
Sequel
Is that when
Mile
you
Run.
put like Netflix on mute and you just masturbate? Is that what that means?
It's called
This
master
is-
dating.
Master dating.
Yeah.
That's hot.
It's when you go out by yourself and just do things by yourself.
I like that. Yeah, I would probably want Netflix just or HBO just so I could not watch it. You know, I like the option of having it there, but I wouldn't want to watch it. Maybe
So
someone
it's like
comes in.
now.
Yeah, maybe someone comes in once a day and just like blades through all of the stupid shit that no one wants to watch.
Sure.
And adds it to my Netflix queue, and then blades all the way over to the right, and then back over to the left just to make sure they didn't
Yeah.
miss anything.
That could be
And it goes
Kevin's
down,
job.
down, and then realizes there's absolutely nothing to watch on that platform.
Yeah.
And then puts Mrs. Fisher's Murders back on. Just back on.
Mrs. Fisher's Murder.
That's what my
Murders?
wife's watching right now.
What is it?
It's like an Australian show about the roaring 1920s in Australia.
Is it good
Where,
at all?
yeah, it's actually pretty funny.
Okay.
My one request is that we all die at the same time and that our tombs are next to each other with doors.
Could we have a live?
Yes,
Yeah.
finally we get the
Yeah.
adjoining doors.
Could we have a live stream camera on? Our
Yeah.
our
Oh my
two- just
God.
watching us?
Definitely.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. And then like again in the prank, you always like every 3 months you have something move. Just so if anyone's watching, like, what the hell was that?
Wish that John Carl's still out there selling our channel.
Yeah, exactly,
It's just
exactly.
like, hey guys, I got this great Squarespace sponsorship.
You know what? A great prank I was thinking when you were talking about how to, prank people with your body and stuff would be and it's similar to putting Kevin in against Tim's will in any one of ours. You knock Grimecraft out. And then he just wakes up in one of the tombs with his DJ set there, and he's just got a DJ until he dies too.
Wow, I would be down with that. I like everyone I like this idea of forcing people to be in our tomb with us.
He'd just be like,
For the
"This
rest of their
sucks," and then he'd
existence.
start playing music.
But you don't have to force. It seems like Kevin wants to be in Tim's tomb. Tim doesn't want him in the tomb, which is why you have to do the reverse grave robbery to begin with.
Yeah.
The whole roommate situation.
It's a forced thing. Like, it's one of those things where I
And once it
simultaneously
happens, we're
love and
enjoying
hate it. Yeah. Kevin Coelho. You know? Once it's happening. I
Pros
guess
and
we're into
cons.
it.
But I feel like the one thing you haven't really thought about yet, Tim, is the humidity of that tomb with Kevin in there
I mean,
constantly.
Yeah,
just
but here's the
sweating.
thing. There's an AC. Like Kevin already connected that. Like that's the thing. Is it's like, do you see the fan next to him? Did we have a fan free Kevin?
Pretty hard to
No.
miss. Pretty hard to miss the fan that's sitting 1 inch away from Kevin's face.
It really is
And
1
it's
inch from
It's
his
like
face.
a 4-foot fan. It looks like an industrial
when he's
fan they
gonna
use.
fall
in, like,
over and take his face off like Two-Face.
it's really gonna it's gonna go right through his face.
Kevin would be a Batman villain. You know, like he's totally cool now. Well, almost, and then eventually he just fucking cracks.
Well, no, he's gonna be your villain one day.
Oh my
You
God.
guys
I
have
know,
been best
I
of
know.
friends
It's gonna
forever,
suck.
and like he is, but you shit on him all the time.
He's gonna beat me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's the moment he decides that I'm his enemy.
He's the villain for sure.
Ooh,
That's
what they all say when they're the villain. Sorry,
Every villain thinks they're the hero.
That's what the villain says usually. Yeah.
I've always been okay with that.
Okay,
yeah.
that was a fun topic.
That was a good topic.
That was-
That one was brought to you, ladies and gentlemen, by iTunes. Yes, iTunes. Head over to iTunes right now. Subscribe to the Game Over Greggy Show. Rate us. It means a lot to us.
I'd really appreciate it personally. Because it's one of those things. I want to get the numbers on Game Over Greggy up. Because I know that there's a lot of listeners out there. I think a lot of people just don't. We never really push the iTunes thing too hard with
Right.
this show. So I would like it if you would go out there, subscribe, leave a nice little review. Let us know whatever you think about this.
Because Gamescast,
Amazing
P.S.
thing.
I love you. Those have been doing
Those are
incredibly
doing
well.
great
People understand
because
that, yeah.
they came a little later.
Right.
So like we were already on iTunes doing that stuff. But Game Over Greggy kind of lost that initial.
So we're asking people to go give another
something.
push.
Mhm.
Get the
So that'd be
boulder
nice.
rolling again.
Thank you.
If you want us to have cool tunes, we need these ratings.
Yes.
The bigger the cushion.
The heart of the pushing.
Yeah. Why did I leave that behind?
Oh, you got me on that. I don't know. I just know the phrase. The more cushion for the pushing.
Yeah, it is. It's
Is it a song lyric? Is that what you're saying?
It's
to me? Is it Pearl Jam?
No, it's the
Is it Pearl Jam?
why can't I think of it? The Christopher Guest movie.
Oh, Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Or no, it's How Did I Leave That Behind, which I think is the funniest.
That is great.
The funniest double
So
entendre.
the big yeah. I see what you're saying. Thanks. It's been a while since I've seen Spinal
I haven't
Tap.
seen it in a long time either.
Nick,
Yes.
what's your topic?
I want to talk about Matt Damon.
Just in general.
Just in general. I saw The Martian.
Don't ruin it. Now
we were supposed to see it.
Feel free to ruin
together.
it.
We're going this weekend. We've made a mandate. My wife understood this. Having said that, my wife did not care. And she was like,
she understood.
I woke up at 9 o'clock on Sunday, which is a little bit later for me. Normally I get the sort of like cabinets are rumbling, dishes are starting. She's been up since 7:30, and she was in the shower, which was nice thing to wake up to. And I walk in doing my normal thing, which is the snake. Have I told you about the snake?
No.
Sometimes I do the snake where it kind of comes in and then just randomly grabs shit off our shower caddy and drops it. She does not like it. But I think it's growing on her. So I go to do that, and she's like,
"Are you like making like any noises?"
No,
or?
it's a silent snake.
Silent
It just
snake.
comes in. Like, here's the curtain. Right?
Yeah.
It just goes.
At what point does she see it? Not till it drops something?
She fucking hates it.
It looks eerily similar to your cobra thing.
It's the python.
Please.
You're scaring Greg. Stop scaring Greg.
So yeah, my wife basically was like, "Look, I really want to see this movie today. She's out of town next week with her mother-in-law."
No.
I was like, all right.
This is after you drop something. This is how the conversation
Oh
starts?
yeah. This is what I do.
Like, where was the segue from the snake?
Well, no, I
She's like, I want to see this.
I went in to
She
do
just
the
hears
snake.
it, and she's like, I want to see the Martian.
I went in to do the snake, and about three, just like a foot inside the bathroom, I was like, I know you're in here, and I want to see the Martian. We're going at 11:30. Your choices are either 11:30 or 12. And I was like, babe, I told the guys that I'd go see it with them next week. She goes, well, you're going to see it twice then. I was like, okay.
Marriage sounds awesome.
Well, she was, it was just
every
she
day
was
that
really,
passes.
The thing is with my wife, when she's super fired up to see a movie, I always want to encourage that.
Yeah,
she
no,
very
for
seldom
sure.
actually wants to go to the theater, and I still love the experience going to the theater. Even though this was a good experience. We always go to we either go to the. Well, I guess it's the same showing, the kids and old person showing in the morning, where it's like before noon. So you get there and all it is loud kids or old people, depending on what movie you're seeing. And in this one, it was just old people.
I love the old people films.
I fucking love it too.
All I hear is them coughing and sucking on Werther's originals.
Yeah, there's no, but occasionally you hear this. You hear this. It's dead quiet, and it's like it's always a poignant moment. And someone says to me like, "Kate, I've always loved you," and you hear just from the back of the theater, "What did he say?"
Yeah, no.
What? What's he doing on the screen? I can't see the screen.
That's funny because kids are like that too. The kids and adults. What's happening? Hold on, why? Who's that? Who's that? It's like it's the main character.
Yeah,
they've been here the whole fucking time.
Yeah, I saw Inside Out with a bunch of kids.
Oh Lord!
And
I
again,
can't even
it's a kids movie, so if you're gonna go see Inside Out, I'm sorry, you're gonna have
You're
kids
gonna
in
find
the
some
fucking
goddamn Rugrats.
This shit's killing me.
But there are kids. There are kids in the front row that straight up. They just haven't hit that place in their life or in their brain's progression where they realize that there's actually something you're supposed to be paying attention to here. So they're like fucking cramming toys together in the front row. And then like the row behind me, the kids constantly asking like insane questions that have nothing to do with the screen at all. Like, what are we having for lunch? What's having for dinner? What's going on? Am I going to get a Twinkie? What the fuck's going on? And the kid right next to me.
What the fuck's going on?
Then there's a kid right next to me who's like that right age where she's maybe 7. Maybe 6, 7, and understands and is like crying, and that's well, like at the moments that are really playing, she's like, wow, this is really having an effect on me. And you look over that, you're like, that's when I
love to imagine that I just like imagining this theater and like the white flicker on everybody's faces, and it's Nick surrounded by children that are unattended. And there's one sobbing next to him, one cramming toys together, and one asking what the fuck is going on.
That's funny, but I like the visual of the old people movie better.
Oh, the old people movie's the best. By far, it's the best.
What did he say?
What did it
like Greg doing the coughing like that?
It's all wet and phlegmy.
Oh God!
Just let you know.
Yeah, that's how it gets.
I love that. That's so funny because that is true. Like the poignant moment, it's like you're scuffling around there or whatever. What did he say?
Roberta, what did he say? Matt Damon.
But anyway, yeah. So we ended up seeing The Martian, and it was one of those things where I haven't seen Matt Damon in a lead role in a really long time. I forget how good he is. Last thing I remember seeing him in was he was well, I don't know if I want to spoil that film, but he shows up as small characters.
If you're thinking of the same one, I think you're allowed to spoil that one now.
I don't think you are.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
No, I still think that's a little fresh.
But recently,
what movie are you talking about?
Well,
you would know.
Okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
But he's been random side characters and things. You know, he just kind of pops up and you're like, oh, that's cool. It's Matt Damon.
And that's
like
when
side character.
He's
And that's
my
really
favorite.
cool. Yeah.
Is he when he's just there? It's like, oh, it's Matt Damon.
But here's my thing of dialing it back. Let's talk about so leading man roles for Matt Damon. I do jump to all the things where I'm thinking of him being a side character. Is Bourne the only like thing where he's out front?
Well, he like
carrying the picture.
Yeah, the first movie I remember seeing him in was School Ties. Where that was when Brandon Fraser was huge. And he was he was like the prick, the asshole kid that like ratted everyone out.
But that's not like front facing dude. But yeah, I'm sorry.
No, but so that was him as a side character, and then of course he did Good Will Hunting, which was kind of blew him up.
Yeah,
started doing the Bourne movies. But like recently, like we bought a zoo. And then like there was a couple other movies where I was like, what the fuck is Matt Damon doing right now? They're okay movies, they're good.
Yeah.
But then you see him in The Martian and you're like, oh, I forgot. This guy is a megastar.
Yeah.
And that but it's so fascinating.
But yeah, I don't think of him like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not that I think of him as a failure or anything, but yeah, I don't think of him as the I'm in front carrying the picture movie star guy. Because I think of Ocean's 11. I mean, dialing it way back for me, I think of this is weird now because like he is a movie star and so is Ben Affleck. But growing up, right, and Kevin will be right there with me on this, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon were your boys that you fucking knew and understood because of Kevin Smith.
Because of Chasing Amy. Because of,
I mean from Mallrats, and then like, you know, the first time you watched the Mallrats DVD commentary, which was a podcast where Ben Affleck was just hilarious during it. And you know what I mean? And then, in Chasing Amy.
They're both in Chasing Amy, though, aren't they?
Exactly. In Chasing Amy, it's Brian O'Halloran across the thing being the guy trying to buy the comic book, and next to him is Matt Damon, who's super young and hasn't done anything probably other than School Ties or whatever.
I think he did it. Well, yeah. I think that was like right after.
Then that's when him and Ben start Good Will Hunting behind the scenes or whatever. As they win their Oscar for that, they're filming Dogma. You know what I mean? Like this is like, you know, being part of the Kevin Smith community back then, the View Askew universe and the message boards and everything else, you felt like these were your friends. So to see them I remember when Ben Affleck started dating JLo, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? You know what I mean? Ben Affleck is dating Jen.
And now he's Batman?
Yeah, and I know, right? And it's just like the scales were all fucked up in terms of like this, like you as a kid and probably just somebody growing up, First off, I don't think this is, you know, the dawn of the age of feeling like you actually know a celebrity, right? Based on there's commentary tracks and interviews and this and behind the scenes stuff where you're like, I'm talking about when I was in high school.
You're talking about that, okay.
With them, right? To then have them grow up to be this thing now, and you're like, well, Jesus Christ, you know what I mean? Like that's crazy.
But that's impressive, and that speaks, I think, volumes to him in general as a human being and to his character, is that he has had that long career, and how many people often do that, right?
Yeah.
Ben Affleck. Yeah, I don't think. Well, I guess he's had, you would say, a better career than Matt Damon in some regard, because I think he's done slightly more high profile films. But like, you're talking about a career that spans 30 years almost at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like Dazed and Confused for Ben Affleck was like early 90s, maybe coming up on that. So it's just fascinating. I mean, these are just people that I admire. Like I admire Matt Damon, and I admire the fact that he's been able to hold it together. I admire that he's still. You know, I think I looked up his filmography before we came in here, and I forgot that he was like a side character in True Grit, the movie that came out with Jeff Bridges. That was a remake of
fantastic
movie, but he's just a random, like he's the random other guy, and you're like, that's fucking Matt Damon, like
it's fucking Matt Damon.
But
which that just reminded me, you saying that. My favorite thing Matt Damon was ever a part of was the Jimmy Kimmel War, where Jimmy Kimmel, I don't remember the exact order of this, but Jimmy Kimmel put out a video. No. Jimmy Kimmel was with Sarah Silverman, right?
Yeah.
They split up.
Yeah.
But then he had her on his show, and they were doing this whole fake thing. And then
that's right.
She put out this music video called I'm Fucking Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember this?
Yes.
Vaguely, but I don't, you know.
It was the fucking best thing in the world. And it's just a whole video of all the places that she's fucking Matt Damon. So fuck you, Jimmy Kimmel. Then Jimmy Kimmel responds with the I'm fucking Ben Affleck. And he ends up fucking Harrison Ford, and like everyone's fucking Ben Affleck. It's the fucking best.
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
It's the best thing Matt Damon's ever done.
Best
thing he's ever done.
He's got a sense of humor about himself.
Yeah, definitely.
Wasn't also, and I'm struggling to remember which movie it was, but wasn't he the guy who was saying Scotty doesn't know in the one movie?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Euro Trip.
Yeah, it was Euro Trip.
Random like
amazing.
two scenes in Euro Trip.
Scotty doesn't know.
By far the biggest celebrity in that movie.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
No one else in that movie did anything else notably that I can think of.
Michelle Trachtenberg.
What's that? Yeah, but what does Michelle Trachtenberg do
Harriet the
later?
Spy.
Yeah,
Oh,
Pete and Pete. I'm with you.
Hey.
She's good.
So the one thing I like about Matt
fans.
Damon is his association with Saving Private Ryan, and so
Another example.
What I was going to say about that, and I don't know how you guys feel about it. Saving Private Ryan to me is very easily one of the great movies of all time.
Yeah.
So like, I'm fascinated with anyone's association with that. The only more fascinating person in that movie's association is who? Guess. Can you guys guess who's in that movie that I can't believe you're not saying his name right now?
What, Vin Diesel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so
that was awesome.
So like,
Capizzo. No,
so-
Caparzo. Capazzo.
I love and Tom Sizemore
she looks like
and
my niece.
Ribisi and all these guys are in this
She looks
movie.
like my niece.
But I love that. I'm always fascinated when there's like this like seminal movie, and then looking at and Saving Private Ryan is a seminal movie. I mean, it was a really fucking. I'll never forget seeing that in the theater. I'll never ever forget seeing that in the theater. And that D-Day landing is still like one of the most insane fucking scenes I've ever seen in my life.
You can't.
The violence in the beginning of that movie is like almost unprecedented. Like the way they just showed it, and I was like, this is awesome. This is the way it should be because this is the way it was. But I love looking at movies like that, and I'm like, it's just fascinating looking at the roster of people that were in movie, like how they just came together. Vin Diesel, who I like Vin Diesel, but not one of the great actors of our time. No offense to Vin Diesel, is associated with in this weird permutation with Matt Damon, and who's also not one. I don't think one of the great actors of all time. But they put this permutation of people together that make this great movie, and I love that. And that's not the only movie that, and you guys don't want to talk about the other movie that he's in, that is like an exceptional movie that he happened to be a part of.
You don't have to go that far down. I mean, remember like,
and of course
Ocean's 11 and the
Ocean's
movie
awesome.
where he's just a kooky, like, and that's the thing that's what I appreciate about him is that he does these roles that don't always paint him as the superstar in the superstar light, right? Whereas like take a guy like Vin Diesel, and this is not knocking Vin Diesel, he always has to be the superhero, right? He's always the guy that can, jump a car off a bridge, jump out of the car, and grab someone and bang into another car, and he's completely okay, right? So he's never going to be, with the notable exception of the pacifier, he's never going to be a character that's second to anyone in a movie, right? Even the Fast and Furious series, he's always been the main headliner.
You don't count Groot.
Except for 3.
Except for 3. Well, 3 was necessary.
Yeah.
That was a necessary revisit.
You don't count Groot.
I don't count Groot.
Okay.
Not necessarily, because I know.
I was just because you're saying he needed to be the front. He was. Just
I think that
of
was
a
more just
collaboration.
funny.
Sure.
Like they were like, oh, we'll just get Vin Diesel. Anyone could have done Groot. I don't think you necessarily brought too much of that role. But yeah, with Matt Damon, he plays Rusty in the Ocean's 11 series, and he's just kind of a fuck up the whole time, or just kind of he's kind of comic relief in a movie that has a lot of comic.
He was
relief.
in The Departed as well, right?
He was in The Departed, and he was in The Departed as a guy that was like not likable, right? He ends
dirtbag.
up being like the heel in that movie.
And that's what I was going to say to that similar role, and that's why I want to talk about. I want like because
we can put the spoiler hat on. If
all right,
you want.
so yeah, well, we're going to talk about because it is a secret that he's in it until you see it.
Right.
No one knew.
How old is this movie?
2 years.
2 years.
Exactly.
All
That's
right.
my thing, and I really don't think this would have ruined.
I don't think it's going to ruin it either.
He's in Interstellar,
right?
And his character in Interstellar, he's a fucking dickhead, murderer, and. Like I actually was uncomfortable with him playing that role where I was like, why did you? It worked.
That's why it was so
But I was
good.
like,
That's
why did you cast Matt Damon as this
It was
character?
awesome, though. Like,
I know,
when
but
you first see him, it's like,
but I don't want to not like him. I guess is the point I'm
All-American
saying.
hero guy. You just it's Matt Damon, so you immediately start assuming the best.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just another movie where he's happens to be associated with a permutation of people, a more talented cast, I would say, than Saving Private Ryan. That is another, really, in my mind, one of the great films that I've ever seen. So, not that I've seen many movies. I've seen a lot of movies, but so I just like the permutations of that. And then I don't want to understate because I'm a huge Bourne fan, and I don't want to understate like those movies are fucking awesome.
They're awesome. All of them.
and
even the last one that came out that didn't even have him in it, I thought was pretty good. Still stood on its own 2 feet.
I didn't see it.
You didn't see the last one?
No.
Bourne Legacy? It's good.
Is that the Jeremy Renner one?
Yeah, it's cool.
Why it's not Bourne.
Yeah, but what it did well was that it was it's basically a side story. Like it's happening while the events of the third movie are happening, the Bourne Ultimatum are happening. And so it's kind of cool to see, because the idea was that obviously like they were shutting down all of their operations with, I think it was Treadstone in that one. I always get which one. One was Blackwater. It doesn't matter. They're shutting down all the operations, so they have to go out and for some stupid reason kill everyone. I don't know why. They're like, we have to
Loose ends.
We have to tie up all the loose ends, which means we have to go after all of our super assassins that we've made, and nothing bad can happen from this. And so they go after one of them, who was like one of their like genetically altered guys, and that this is when they like the group has risen to a place where they're no longer just training people mentally and physically; they're actually genetically altering them to be like faster and stronger and smarter. And Jeremy Renner is one of those characters, and he plays a really good character. It's cool. It's a very simple movie. You're not gonna be blown away by it, but I think you'll be entertained.
But Matt Damon will be in the 5th Bourne movie.
Matt Damon is in the next one. I don't know what it's called. I don't think it's titled yet.
Born Again.
That was the other thing about this guy. I go watch. We bought a zoo, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but he looks like a dad, right? Like he's not muscular, he's not buff, looks a little bit older.
Dad body's hot right now.
Yeah, he's wearing like the dad jeans and shit like that, and it's just about him and his relationship with his family and this piece of property that they bought that just happens to have a zoo on it. I didn't watch it that closely. It could be about something completely different. But then you see him in the beginning of The Martian, and he's fucking cut up, like he's shit yoked because because I think he had just gotten done either filming or he got buff again for Bourne, and I'm like, he's not young anymore, but like to have that dedication and be able to actually go do that, because you guys know what my lifelong dream is I have 2 lifelong dreams. One is to be on the cover of a magazine where they just take the picture of me with a little lights in my irises,
the ring lights.
The other is to have someone pay me to have to work out. So in reality, Matt Damon has accomplished all of my goals. He sold a screenplay, he's won an Academy Award. He's had that picture, I think. I don't know. I can't confirm.
He must have.
Probably at some point.
Time Magazine Matt Damon of the Year.
Yeah. And he gets millions of dollars
He was
to
the
have
Matt Damon of the year. Yeah.
It's Matt Damon of the Year.
Matt Damon wins Matt Damon of the Year.
What's crazy is Ben Affleck won it 2 years in a row.
So I don't remember. So it's Team America, right?
Yeah, I remember Team America.
He was not. He did not do the voice.
Was
for
that not
no.
him? Damn it! That would have been so much better if it was.
You know how that.
actually
You know
him
how that
doing
came about, right?
No, I don't. But
They
that was
made-
the funniest thing.
They
in
made
the, world
puppet
to me.
for. He was supposed to have lines, apparently, evidently, as the story goes. He was Matt Damon's character was supposed to be like a
character.
shitty heel side character, and they got the puppet back, and they the way they described the way it looked was not using a term that I care to use, but they were like, this thing looks like mildly handicapped in the brain, and they were like, I bet all he could say is Matt Damon. And that's all they made him say. They took all of his lines away. So every time they threw to him,
it was just that was it.
Matt
Yeah.
Damon.
Oh man, if
And
it was him doing it though, it would have made it.
But I mean, yeah, you're thinking more along the lines of like when they cast George Clooney and like
As the dog,
and he was just the gay dog.
That's
And all I
hilarious.
did was go her. He was like, and he was quoted as saying, I think something like, he's like, yeah, I was excited to be a part of it, and then those sick fuckers cast me as a dog. But anyway, yeah, I'm excited for you guys to see The Martian. I think it's a good return to form for Matt Damon, and you forget how he's just a fascinating person to watch. Very talented. I think you guys will like it. I'm assuming we'll talk about it probably on next week's podcast.
I like the. I just like how Tim and I don't know why I'm laughing, but a return to form for Matt Damon made me laugh. I don't know why. Like, what does that mean?
Because I think he's legitimately a
Back
leading
to being
guy.
a superstar,
He's a
leading
leading man. He is very well rounded. He's a great actor, and he's compelling to watch. And you've read The Martian, and so you know most of it's based on these logs that he does to sort of keep track of what he's doing, but also like kind of keep sane.
It's all written from that perspective.
Yeah, and so he does those, and it's like a vlog basically. I mean, he's talking directly to the camera, so as the audience, you're sitting there watching it, and he's talking to you, and it's fucking phenomenal. It's so much fun to just watch him like explain these deeply, deeply scientific things to us in a way that like I don't consider myself smart, especially when it comes to science. Pretty much cheated my way through biology in high school. I don't even remember taking chemistry. That's how dumb I am. Pretty sure I did though. And he's just he puts these things across, and you're like, I get it. Okay, I get that. Kind of makes sense. Maybe not from the chemical bond level, but I get what you're trying to do. And that's also a testament to the writing as well. But I don't want to talk any more about that because I feel like I'm setting it up for you guys.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. I don't know when I'm going to be able to see it, but
you're not coming Saturday.
Well, it depends on when you're going on Saturday.
Well, we're gonna go during a time.
I can't go Saturday night.
We'll go at 2:15 on Saturday.
That will work for me. 2:15 will work for me.
Well, Greggy doesn't work for you.
Not hosting a wing competition. You want to leave me? You can leave me behind.
No,
I'll go see it with Christine.
No.
All by my sad self.
I want to go to your wing competition.
Christine's not going to want to
Yeah,
be with
coming.
Christine all by myself.
I'd rather go to the wing wings. The
Do it, come. It'll be fun.
That's a deep comment I'd like to digest, really get into at some point. I was just going to say, I don't know if Christine really wants to be with you anymore after you're talking about how all the people you're going to fuck in the afterlife and all this.
I mean, we haven't even taken a death till us part thing.
Don't,
and not to mention,
don't
she's
take
going to want to get out there and see what's
Don't
happening.
take the vow because it just complicates your life. You know what I mean?
But it
Look
also
at
gives him
Nick.
the out for
Oh,
when he dies.
I'm a dead man inside. I'm dead. I'm beaten down. I'm constantly looking for a way out. I'm like a man in a prison.
I mean, it's true. Hey, Nick, tell us the most interesting thing that happened in your week. I did the snake in the shower.
Now,
Like, here's the thing. I would love for a second just to hear what goes on in your wife's head. You know, like what's your wife's version
it's
of
a
you?
constant, slow, just depressing sigh. That is what is in my wife's head. It's just the call. You know when Colin does the thing where he goes, no, you're dismissed. That won't do. That's what my wife thinks probably every single time. And I ask her, I'm like, does it ever occur to you that you willingly married me? And she goes, every fucking day. Every day I think this. And I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? I don't know.
It's like water torture.
It really is. Because I
On
do
the
weird
soul.
shit. I'm constantly pawing at her. I'm constantly trying to have sex with her. You know what I mean? Like I'm just kind of a.
Kevin's knowingly shaking his head yes.
Yeah. Well,
Kevin
Kevin
does
actually,
the same thing to Tim.
Yeah,
He does.
Just waiting till they're buried together.
God damn it.
But at the same time, I don't know. I like being married. I don't know that I could. I like having someone there who's constantly my my pal around, knock around. What do they call it? What's the term? Knock around guy?
Knock around pal.
Knock around pal. I like that.
Is
And
it?
I like
That was
that.
knock around guy.
Knock around pal?
Okay,
Should be
I'm
my
just saying.
knock-around gal.
I don't
I've
know.
heard it. Knock up guy.
But yeah, don't be surprised if my wife just puts
Really?
a knife through me at one point.
Oh, no,
won't be.
nobody
No.
would be shocked at all. No,
I don't
trust me.
even think. I mean, I'm letting you know right now. If that ever happens, just give her a pass on that. She deserves it. 3
Wow.
years of me.
See if that
3
holds
years
up
of
in
me.
court.
3 years of me in bed with her when she's trying to sleep, pawing at her, trying to grab boobs. Do you see?
I don't want that. I can't sleep
imagine
through
if you were
that.
sleeping. You know what I mean? 3 years of her not telling me, bluntly, that she does not want to cuddle with me at night, and yet
You keep trying to cuddle.
feeling me slowly.
Portillo.
Portillo, what are you doing?
Come here. What are you?
He's pawing at this.
Porty, come here.
He's replicating. He's doing like Uncle Nick does.
Yeah.
I learned from watching you.
Oh my God. What is that?
It's me trying to get a ball of yarn like Amari.
I just like I like the visual of this. If Greg was your wife and she was laying down, it'd be like, and like you just.
Oh yeah. Oh, I do it.
Just
Yeah.
grabbing
The grab and
fucking
go.
God bless
tits.
her. She deserves some sort of
Left and
Nobel
right.
Peace Prize or an award or something like that
Oh, that's
for
nice.
dealing with me. So if she ever ends up killing me, shooting me, or whatever, just
I'll tell
let
the
her have
judge.
it.
I'll let the judge listen to this episode.
Judge,
yeah.
if you look at the Game Over Greggy show,
Look at the
October.
Matt Damon topic.
or just present or just point him to the topic last week on Patron exclusive where we talked about shitting for an hour and 15 minutes.
That's
Yeah,
for your.
what about
That's
it?
for your.
It was
mind
awesome. It was great, but my wife's like, "You did what?" And I was like, "Oh, we talked about shitting."
Don't tell her what you do when
Oh,
you
she
come
started
home.
listening to our podcast now.
She's not a patron though. She would never get that.
No,
episode.
but
That's
she's
going to really accelerate the divorce proceedings. I think.
Yeah, well, either that or it's going to bring us together. You got to take risks in life, Colin.
I know.
You got to take risks.
I know. I refuse
My
to, but you should.
You got to do it.
Oh, good lord, Tim,
Yes.
what's your topic?
My topic is music recommendations. We've talked about music many times on the show, but usually in a more roundabout way, or something else will be the topic, and then we bring up music as an example. You know, like we didn't do this today, but we were talking about like what would you be buried with? We'd bring up these. Oh, I'd be buried with this album because I love
Gotcha,
it.
gotcha,
Or we've done topics that are like, what's your favorite album of all
Sure.
time, or whatever? Like what music defines the '90s to you? This is different because a lot of people have been tweeting at me or like on the Facebook group and stuff. And they're like, hey, like, what music do you recommend listening to? Like, Kind of Funny should make a Spotify playlist or this or that.
Well, that'd be fun.
I don't use Spotify, so like, I don't really do that, but I will help Nick make one.
I would love that. So my thing is I don't know, like, you two are the ones that know a lot about music. Although Greg, oddly enough, can sing the lyrics to any fucking song anytime it's on the radio, which
It's
is like
You're
some sort
giving
of
Greg
idiot
way
savant
too much
shit.
credit. I'm
No,
sorry. You're
it's-
giving Greg way too
it's
much credit
been
on this one.
one for one, like 100% of the time. I'm like, I'll put a random 80s song on, and he will just know every lyric to it. And I don't know. You guys know me. You've heard me try to sing songs. I don't know the lyrics to anything. I will make shit up. I use the word stuff all the time.
yeah.
I left some stuff in the city. I'm doing some stuff and it's shitty. That's what I do. That's the way we got.
What
to
have
go.
some stuff in the city?
But Greg will just be like, I mean, Greg just busts that stuff out. But I would say, music knowledge aside, you two probably represent more of a polar spectrum in the music knowledge. Like you like the indie sort of like rap hip hop scene.
Yeah.
Colin knows that, but Colin also has just a vast knowledge of anything from probably, I would say, 81 on. Is that a fair assumption?
I would say 81 to 2005. Maybe
Some-
like the
yeah.
late 70s to 2005.
Yeah.
My knowledge of today's music is
I'm
not-
often shocked at how much all of you know about just random types of music, or just
Yeah.
random bands and just artists and stuff, and just how deep your knowledge is of their library. Like not just the hits, but like the deep cuts of the albums and stuff. I'm like, what the hell? Like you with the lyrics, I don't understand.
Or like
You get
Weezer,
upset.
like
You
Greg
say
knows
that we give
Weezer.
Greg too much credit. I don't think so. I think we give Greg the credit for knowing the lyrics and knowing the general melody. You get upset because Greg doesn't like stick into the song. So
Yeah, Greg
will
doesn't understand
he
time
just takes the
signatures.
fun parts of the song.
Hey, skips
kinda-
like-
like Greg and I will start
together.
singing a song, and it's like, and then Greg will just skip the top, like,
Right to the
like
hook.
just
Right
like
to
I'm
the
like,
hook
what do you
every
like?
time.
How am I? First of all, how am I supposed to know that? Like, how am I
You're always
supposed to know
saying,
that?
I thought we were just having a jam session.
But
For the
that's not
when
how you have a jam
when
session,
When I'm
Greg.
singing something off of the radio, I stick to the.
You
what
stick
I
to
need
the-
'cause
yeah.
I'm trying to fill it in there.
Mhm. So I think that's what upsets you about it. But I mean, are you not impressed by this man's knowledge?
The
of
big
lyrics?
thing is, I think for radio stuff and what you go and put on the Spotify when we're in the car, and I know the lyrics to, that's all general pop culture. Colin's not impressed because when he's on the elliptical, he'll put on Zebrahead and go, "Do you remember this song?" I'm like, "No."
Okay,
well, that's actually not it at all. I was just saying that I agree with you that you know the melody, but you don't. I find that you're making lyrics up a lot. You don't think you're making them up.
Okay,
we've had those kinds of conversations. He does know the melody. He does.
Well, I mean,
He has the
even with
K-Rock
lyrics,
knowledge
though,
base.
It's like even with like rap songs, which is the thing that I wouldn't give Greg the like, oh, he would know this. But it's like you give a random like old Snoop Dogg song, and Greg will just fucking do the whole verse, and I'm like,
we were walking to TwitchCon.
yeah, and he just
I was like,
busts into shit.
I think I was like singing. It was either Gin and Juice or something from the Chronic, and I was like, you know how sometimes I'm in my own little world, but like, give me the microphone first so I can bust like a bubble. And Greg's
Compton
like,
and Long Beach together. Now you know we in trouble.
yeah, ain't nothing but a G thing, baby.
Too
Well, not-
loked out. Greggy's going
There we go.
crazy.
He'll
Death
yeah,
Row
he'll
is
have
a
little
label
remixes.
that pays me
unfadable, so please don't try to fade. Now back to
it's
Let's
like-
This is it.
it's
It's
just
this,
like
it's
that.
that. What you guys
I can only
just
go so
did
far.
was fine, but then Greg goes even farther.
But he'll do that. He'll do that with like a weird, like I'll be like flipping through stations. This never happens, but this is just an example I'm making up.
No,
right
because
now
when
to
you get in your car,
illuminate.
I'm like, "Hey, put on some music," and you're like, "Okay," and it's just the AM static of where you're.
Well, I asked you to put on music last time, and you put on a quiet song from MGS, and it was like this.
and then
It was just a dull rumble, and then
Nick quickly was like, "All right, Colin, you put on music."
I'm like, Colin, you're up, and Colin's like, yeah, well, you should have come to me first. He gave me that look like, is this gonna happen again, or are you gonna come to Colin first, Papa Colin first?
Colin just busts out the fucking Pet Shop Boys. What the
That
fuck's
was
going
awesome.
on?
That was awesome.
I got a
but,
great
but that's
playlist.
that's one of the things I like about hanging out with you guys. Like Greg will be if a country music song comes up, I'm like, oh, this is Garth Brooks, and you're like, no, it's not Garth Brooks. It's so and so Who Daddy from Tennessee, and I'm like, how the fuck do you?
So and so Who Daddy is criminally underrated in the country music.
It blew me away that you were actually like, I like country. I was like, he's just kidding. For like 4 years, I knew you. I thought you were kidding.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I
There
was
was
like, I started
somebody-
riding in cars with you.
Somebody
and I was
thought
like,
that the Taylor
he's not
Swift thing was a giant joke too.
kidding. I thought it was.
Years. They sat me down like.
I still think it kind
Sat
of
me
is.
down.
No way.
I thought
I still think
your relationship with Taylor Swift was kind of like our joking relationship with how much we trump up Fast and Furious.
You
where
know,
we
you
like
don't
it.
jokingly trump it up. You guys don't jokingly trump it up.
It's fair
He's
enough.
been with us long enough. He
fair
knows
enough, I
this
guess.
love is real. But okay, so going back to it, like I think about this a lot because I definitely pride myself on one of my passions being the music that I enjoy. And I feel like I'm very knowledgeable about it. Having said that, it's like I feel like I only really know very specific things and I don't know anything outside of that. So it always shocks me when you guys seem so well equipped with this knowledge of like late 80s music, 90s music, all this stuff. Like there's certain things it's like if I hear the song, I'm like, oh yeah, like I remember hearing that. Or like I guess for me it was more the 2000s era because that's when I was in middle school and high school. So it's like all the shit music that came out then that I will always love from the bottom of my heart. And like Lean Back by the Terror Squad. You gotta give a shout out to that, you know? And like T.I., like all the rappers of that era. Jaquan and all of them. And all these things that are just like, this isn't good. But it's like it brings me back to a time.
That was the
and,
time.
and I think that a lot of the songs that you guys listen to that I'm like, I know who this is. All right, I know this song, but I have no idea who it is. And you guys know every fucking lyric. It's impressive to me how much you guys know. And I feel like you're all from very different backgrounds and different places.
Yeah, but I think we all are close enough in age that we experienced at least particularly like the mid 80s to early 90s at a time when we all were cognizant of what was happening, right? Like when I went and saw Straight Outta Compton, I was like, oh, now I haven't studied NWA by any stretch of the imagination, but I remember that time period. I remember them getting arrested. I remember obviously the riots after the Rodney King beating and that verdict was given. And so those to me were, to use a Colin phrase, touchstones to that time period of like when I was growing up in Riverside, watching the news and being like, that's happening in LA, which is only 45, maybe an hour away from where I'm currently sitting right now, and having the world go from being really, really big to me all of a sudden to being like, wow, this is a very small place actually, because this could be this could be happening in my town for all I know. But yeah, I mean, I get most of my knowledge from you guys, right? And like that's why I love talking to Colin whenever he puts on a band, because we're having a conversation with someone on one of the hangouts, one of the Patron hangouts, and we were talking about Green Day. And I was like, oh, Dookie, hands down, like the best album. And Colin's like, no, it's this. And then he, I forget what his name was. It was a Josh? No. He was like, no, it's this other album that's really obscure. And then Colin and him had an obscure album off where they were like, no, this is
because he said Warning was his favorite Green Day album, and that is literally the Warning sucks. and that is and that's literally no offense.
Xavier?
Warning is awful. That was like
it?
considered like the downfall of Green Day, which was why when they came out with American Idiot 4 years later, everyone's like, all right, this is American Idiot is not a fantastic album, but it's a good album, and it's a concept album, which I like, and it's different because they don't do concept albums. I like concept albums. We can talk about that.
I believe it was James.
Was it James?
But I was busting his balls because I'm like, I've never heard that. Like when I got Warning in 2000, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, like because you have to understand, Green Day, Kerplunk is, and of course, like 10,000 whatever Smooth Out Slappy Hours, like their independent release. That's an interesting album. But Kerplunk's a great album. Dookie is the one that in 94, the seminal record.
Right.
Insomniac is a good record, but I think that it was very rushed. I mean, they made that album like really quickly. But Nimrod is the one we were talking about. And Nimrod, which came out in 97, I think is their best album. That is a fucking killer album. And
I got to go back and
as a
listen to
311 fan, I call it the Transistor of Green Day's catalog. Transistor is this really... Transistor is the album that came out after the Blue album, which was their really popular album with Down and All Mixed Up and stuff like that. And it's like a concept album, and it's weird, and it's long, and it's spacey, and it's for fans.
Right.
It's not really for like consumption generally. Now there are songs. Nice Guys Finished Last. Good Riddance is a very popular song. I mean, that was in the last episode of Green Day, but and that's on those records. But I like the deep cuts because, you know, I like exploring. When I find a band I like exploring their catalog.
Sure.
And
Discography, they call it.
Like 311 has 11 albums and a bunch of EPs and all sorts of stuff. And I know every one of those songs. Every one of them. Lyrically, I know the ins and outs of all. I can't play most of them, but on guitar bass, but I know how the guitar and bass, like, you get to know something so intricately. The thing is that my love of 311 is a legacy thing at this point. I don't know that I'd recommend people today just like start listening to 311.
I would, though.
They're great. They're great.
Because it's that sound, and that's the thing. When I hear 311, it's that sound of an era that was, I mean, so fucking like poignant in my brain at the time, right?
It was a seminal moment in our lives.
It really was, and it was a very big distinctive, like, to me, a break with the reality of what the 80s were to me, where the 80s were like all pop and glamour and glitter, and then you get into the 90s and you've got that sound of like that 311 or the Sublimes, or you know, punk starts to get bigger, ska starts to get a little bit bigger.
Ska was huge.
And that was what I think you're responding to, which was we were listening to No Doubt, or Colin was not No Doubt, the original version of It's My Life. It's My Life. And you were like,
Talk.
Yeah, and you were like, oh, someone remade this. And I was like, no.
Well, I didn't say that. I mean, I knew that.
You made a joke about it.
Yeah,
you were joking around about it.
I hadn't heard the other version before,
Right.
and that's just because I'm young. Like, that's really it.
Oh, no,
it's funny because people would be like, oh, you're stupid, you don't fucking know it. It's like, I don't fucking know it.
Oh,
like,
no, but
the first time I heard it was No Doubt.
But that's a realization that I have all the time with movies, where I'm like, oh, that movie was really great. And my wife would be like, you know, that was a book, right? Like, every good movie is a book.
Yeah.
It's the same with songs. A lot of really popular, well, not a lot of really popular songs, but a lot of a good entry into the market for a lot of these bands is to pick a popular song and then do an awesome cover of it, right?
Yeah.
And covers,
No Doubt did that all the time.
And covers could be better. I mean, I always talk about, I'm a huge Tears for Fears fan. It's like actually one of my very favorite bands. Which I guess shows like my affinity for the 80s, where I love Tears for Fears. Songs from the Big Chair is a fucking, oh my God, what a great record. But Mad World is, the remake of Mad World is better, I think, than like the Gears of War commercial of Mad World. I think it's actually a better song than the original Mad World. So I don't often.
I think you said they remake a Shout. I was like, that was not better.
Oh, Shout 2000 by Disturbed?
Yeah.
No, that's certainly not better. But I'm also, I discover things all the time. I'm a big fan. I know this is funny, but Rod Stewart's Some Guys Have All the Luck. I love that song. I think it's a fucking awesome song. It's like a fusion of like Rod Stewart's like, yeah, like, because it's a fusion
Watch your tongue.
It's a fusion of Rod Stewart's like 70s rock sound and like, you know, like with like new wave sensibilities. And I always loved that song, and I was like reading about it, and it's a cover. And I was like, and I'm like, I didn't know fucking idea. So it's not like my parents probably know that. So I accept that you didn't know that Talk wrote It's My Life.
No, I had no idea it was a band called Talk. I've never heard of that band. I'm sure I've heard their music before, but that's where I come in, where I'm like, who did that song? Like the other day I was listening to a song that I've heard millions of times that I probably know the lyrics to, and I was like, who did that? Well, I was like, it's the Bengals. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm not going to remember that. Not going to remember it.
But you just remembered it.
I don't remember the song, though. I can't remember what it was.
But to my point about like 311, like I you know, and some of our favorite bands, I don't know if you guys agree with like some, like I just have a real affinity for them. But when I think about bands that I'd recommend that I really love, like there's a few, like I think Dredge is probably the band that I like that actually is the best band.
Really?
Like in terms of
what song would I know from Dredge?
I was playing them when you were here yesterday. They're you probably wouldn't know any of their songs. They're San Francisco based. Actually, they're really in the Valley. They've been together for 17 or 18 years. Same lineup. They only have
LA
like
Valley or Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley.
Okay.
And they came up with like Deftones and a bunch of other bands, but they're not like that. They're like a space rock, or like art rock, alt rock kind of band, and they write concept albums. And that's what I was saying before. I fucking love concept albums, and bands that do it right, like Ben Folds Five's last record before they broke up, and then they're back together now. But the unauthorized biography of Reinhold Messner, which is an album that a lot of people don't like because it's not as catchy piano rocky as Whatever and Ever Amen or Ben Folds Five's self-titled album. Reinhold Messner is a concept album, and I like how the songs merge into each other, and I like in an era where that's not from this era, but that's 15 years old now, but in an era where it's about singles or a few songs, or maybe about a B-side every now and then, but it's not about like albums and the track order and stuff like that. I like that Dredge writes in such a way that the songs go in and out of each other. Like the end of the song is at the beginning of every track, which I love. They do these things, especially in El Cielo, which is arguably my favorite record of all time, where randomly they do these things called brush strokes, where they'll randomly just start playing a song from earlier in the album or later in the album that hasn't happened yet, and they'll play it for like 15 or 20 seconds, and then it'll stop.
Funny
and stuff.
does that.
And I love that kind of shit because it's cerebral, and music, I think there's different levels of enjoying music, but as a musician and someone that the reason I know music, it's not because I have an innate talent, it's because my family is really obsessed with music and like really, really into it. That's the reason I know old hip hop. That's the reason I know new wave. The first album I ever remember listening to was when my parents brought a Crown Victoria Ford in like 1987 or something like that. And my dad popped in the cassette tape to test the cassette when we were going home or whatever of Days of Future Past or whatever, the Moody Blues album. And I was like that. And I'm like, I have a deep lineage with a lot of these bands that I really love. Not because it was like, oh, I just love music, mom and dad, and let's play music. It's because like my parents were like, listen to this. My sisters were like, I'd sneaking in their room at night or whatever when they were after I was supposed to be in bed and they were doing homework. We would listen to whatever it was we were listening to, Tears for Fears or Depeche Mode or whatever. That's how I got into Bare Naked Ladies, Juliana Hatfield, 10,000 Maniacs, like a lot of Heart, all of this like weird shit. That's why I know these bands. So it's not like anyone can do it. It was just that I was exposed to it. And if I do have children, I'm going to do the same to them because I think it was really valuable. My parents let me play instruments. They encouraged me to do it. They let me fuck around with whatever I wanted. They let me listen to whatever I want. I told the story of when I brought the Blue album home by 311. I had never heard anything except for Down by them. I brought it home. My dad always looked at my albums, and I remember being scared because it had the parental guidance thing on the front, and I was 10 or 11. And I remember one of their songs called Guns Are for Pussies on the back of it. And I was afraid. He just looked at it and he clearly read it. And he's like, all right, whatever. And like, so they never stopped me from doing anything. Like, that's the only reason I know it. So I don't think it's like, I just get it. I think I was just exposed to it. And I'm happy I was because I fucking love music. I listen to music for hours every day. Just like when I get up in the morning, I just lay in my bed and listen to music before I even like leave the room. So
it's funny you mentioned how you were exposed to it because now thinking back, a lot of the bands I liked, at least earlier on, and the ones that stuck with me, because I don't go as deep into music as you guys do, obviously. But I do remember very distinctly when my brother got his first car, he did the thing where he bought the Alpine stereo, like CD player, where the face like flipped out and you could like take it off. You could take it off with you and like you put it in your pocket to bring in your car so no one could steal it, right? And then he bought the freaking like, he was like, how big is my trunk? Cool. I'm going to figure out the biggest fucking subwoofer I can put back in there. For God knows what reason, but that's what they do.
Sub,
like
so. But he used to listen. We like Blair, and one of the bands I think he introduced me to, which is still today, is Rage Against the Machine, and I always talk about them because it is that moment where I was listening to like the now spacing on the album. I think Battle for Los Angeles, and he would just fucking.
What was the year?
That God, I want to say like when he graduated, so maybe 94.
No, so it was their self-titled album.
Was it? Yeah, was it?
Self-titled 92, Evil Empire 96,
Maybe Evil
Battle
Empire
of Los Angeles
because
was 99.
it has the guy on the front of it.
Like the yellow
white.
album with the red star. That's Evil. That's Evil
but yeah,
Empire.
just moments like that, and then of course he would always go down the catalog. He was really into Metallica, so he had every Metallica CD. And remember those big books that you'd have to carry your CDs in?
Oh yeah,
like
I got one out there.
Yeah. And it's fascinating. So he had that, and he introduced me to Metallica, which I never really got into, truth be told. But then like bands like Guns N' Roses, bands like his music catalog was my re-entry into the 80s, where I was like, I never really paid attention to the 80s and early 90s, and all of a sudden my brother gets an album called was it Teen Spirit? No, what was Nirvana's first album? Was it Teen Spirit?
Oh, never mind.
That's
not their first one, but that's the one that.
The one with the baby floating in the.
Yeah, that's.
And I was like, what the fuck is this? What is this cover of this?
What is this child porn?
Such an amazing album cover.
Yeah, and he would play these things, and his friends would bring then CDs into his car and things like that, and so like. You're getting exposure to Pearl Jam, you're getting exposure to like Soundgarden, and like my brother was really into drumming as well, and so anything that had a great drum, like that's how I learned. That's how I listened to Rush for the first time, and he was like, "This guy is the shit. Like he's the best drummer on the planet." And I was like, "All right, I'll take your word for it because I don't give a shit about drumming." At the time, I didn't, but I
then you fell in love.
So yeah, it's interesting how that because I didn't grow up in a household that particularly played music, and so my dad liked bands like groups like the Beach Boys and the Beatles a little bit here and there.
Beach Boys, man, Pet Sounds, holy shit, that fucking record is good.
Yeah,
oh my god.
So recommendations for me are the bands that I always come back to. Right, it's those bands where I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't listened to Led Zeppelin in a while, so I'm gonna listen to Led Zeppelin, or I haven't listened to Guns N' Roses in a while, and I know those are like kind of the easy gets, but they really are the bands that were either the front runners or they were doing something fucking amazing back in the day.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, those are. I can't tell you how good Pet Sounds is, by the way. If people haven't listened to, like, that's one of the great rock albums of all time. Pet Sounds is Pet Sounds was so influential on the Beatles. I mean, that tells you like how.
Well, have you seen the movie about him?
About
Brian Wilson?
Brian Wilson?
No,
not Brian Wilson. Is it Brian Wilson?
From the Beach Boys?
The Beach Boys, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep getting him confused with a newscaster, Brian Williams.
Brian Williams.
Liar.
Yeah, Brian Wilson is
not smart. But anyway, it's a movie with him and John Cusack plays the old Brian Wilson. It's supposed to be. I haven't seen it yet either. We should watch it together because my wife said it's phenomenal, and she said it'll give you such an amazing. She said if you appreciate Beach Boys now, it'll give you even a deeper appreciation for what he went through and how that music came about because he had some very serious psychological issues that were very, very mistreated for a long time. So it's pretty fascinating. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I think the Beach Boys are funny because I just feel like the British invasion was so. I mean, it wasn't all there were. There were a lot of random ass bands in the '60s, the Turtles and all. Like, there's just a lot of random bands, but the Beatles were so seminal. We haven't had a band like that ever again, where it like sucked the oxygen out of the room. Where like the Beach Boys did really well considering they were contemporaries of a band that sucked the oxygen out of the room.
Was the best band ever.
And yeah, I mean, want to talk about recommendations? The Beatles, like especially like the later albums, I've talked about it before, like Sgt. Pepper's Magical Mystery Tour, White Album, Abbey Road. These are fucking really, really, really good records. And that was after they stopped touring too, so they were playing shit that they couldn't even play live. Like they didn't play those songs.
That's the thing. I mean, those were more concept than the other ones, which were a little bit more single based.
Yeah, like Let It Be and all. Like these are fine. Rubber Soul. I mean, but it's just like. I really do cut off. I have a cutoff with the Beatles of like 66 or 67 is like when I feel like they were really, really good. You know, like before that, it's very poppy, generic rock where they were trying to figure it out. And you had like the Yardbirds and all these random ass bands doing their things. Elvis was out and like people were feeling the groove or whatever and figuring rock out. I mean, we forget rock was when the Beatles were making rock was like 10 years old. You know, it wasn't like anyone knew what the fuck it was supposed to be. Rock has never gone away since. But I love those records, man. If people haven't listened to the Beatles, they're hard to get their hands on because they're not streaming anywhere. And
that's the unfortunate aspect. You can't get them on Spotify, right? I don't know.
No, Apple Music is streaming. Apple Music, and Apple Music being the holder of not Apple the computer company, but Apple Music, their label, they're nuts. They're nut jobs. So,
it's too bad. But it does speak to the relevancy of that group and how great they were and how impactful they are. That the Beatles are still touted as one of the best, if not the best group of musicians ever. And you can't even, if right now it would be hard for me to even find a Beatles song unless I went on and purchased one.
Yeah, you have to buy them.
But I mean, hard.
But what I'm saying is contrasted to how other people, like how most people consume music these days, which is through these music services like Spotify and Apple Music. Where
and I don't think that's true. I think most people are buying them from
it's possible.
These services.
It's possible. But I mean, that's definitely the direction it's going in, right? Where people are buying less and less physical media and or media in general, and they're just subscribing to these things, thus making it every band a little less relevant than I think it would be if you had to put that money toward it. But the Beatles are just going to be considered one of the greatest bands ever for forever. Yeah. For as long as we have ears.
Yeah. I agree.
What about you? Like, what do you recommend? Because like you listen to a lot of stuff. Nothing?
No.
Metal Gear Solid.
I mean, music's the one where the famous story goes that once from at IGN, LA blasted out, hey, does anybody, was when IGN still had a music channel, hey, does anybody want to review the new Weezer, our freelance just fell through, does anybody want to review the new Weezer album? And I was away from my desk, and before I got back, there were 5 responses that all said Greg, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it totally, and like, he's all right, I'm sending it to you right now, great. I was like, great, and then I stopped, and then I turned back around and emailed it back, and I was like, hey, heads up, I only listen to Weezer, Taylor Swift, and Damon. Like, I don't know if I'm the guy for this. You know what I mean? Like, music isn't a huge thing for me. It just isn't. You know what I mean? I enjoy it. I like it. When I run into stuff now, I go out and I make an effort to buy it. You know what I mean? Because I want to. My catalog is one of those things that kind of like, I think like most people's, right? Kind of stunted after college, maybe. Like in college, I was downloading everything and have CDs. You know, just dozens and dozens of burned CDs out there with singles and tracks and stuff I ran into and liked. And then it was like I just listened to that forever. And then now it's so easy with iTunes that when I find something I want or like, I go out and buy it, try to support it. But yeah, like I don't consider myself an expert in the field at all. So it's one of those things where it's like, I love Weezer and I love Taylor Swift. I recommend trying them out if you like them or not. And if you don't, no big deal. I love Dynamite Hack. I think you should do that. Lucky Boys Confusion, right? Like,
I love that you love Dynamite Hack still.
Dynamite Hack and Super
Lucky Boy
Fast,
Confusion
right?
had that one good record.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I had them all of them, but yeah, they had the one good record.
With Boss Man.
Yeah.
That's so
their
crazy.
big label one. Yeah.
Like, it's so nuts to me that like music is not that big of a deal to some people. And
Yeah.
I guess it's just, it's one of those things that video games aren't to some people, movies aren't to others, but
I appreciate it, and it's not. I'm not stupid. Like if it went away tomorrow, I wouldn't miss it. Like no, I love the way it'll make me feel when I'm walking and listening to it. The perfect track comes on for the perfect thing, or like I now like the Regiment for an Airplane is putting on Taylor Swift in 1989, Going to Sleep. You know what I mean? Like it's like there's all these
Super
different
fun when
things
you're sitting next to him.
What, me just sitting there with the hood pulled over my face?
Yeah,
and
you're like, it's
rocking that
hilarious.
Taylor
You're
Swift in
such
my
a different
dreams.
guy when you travel too, because I think I think in your brain, traveling is when you actually take a break and stop moving for a
sure.
second.
You have an excuse not to work.
Yeah, so Craig, last time I think it was the only time I've sat next to you on a plane, like right directly next to you. I look over, it was like Tim, and I like fucking with you, so that's fun. So I just keep you awake constantly by hugging you. And I look over at Greg, and he's got like an Assassin's Creed hoodie just pulled over, and just you can see the earbuds kind of coming out, and there's a Vita just on the standby here in case you wake up.
If I wake up, I'll play Vita for
It's
sure.
immediately.
But I've trained myself in airplanes so much that I can't stay awake on airplanes anymore.
I don't blame you. That's great.
I
can't
just
sleep
get
on
on,
an
and as soon as I hear the engines, even if I want to play a game, I start getting sleepy.
It's probably good.
But yeah,
for
that's
you.
how I mean, like music is obviously a huge part of everything, but it's just not like something I go out of my way to appreciate or find, and that's why when I do find something I like, by hook or by crook, I try to go for it.
See, it's so interesting because to me, like, it is such an important thing, and it's something that I read about every day, and like I look into, and I'm like looking forward to releases. Like I have a mental calendar in my head of like when things are coming, and I look forward to those things. You know, whether it's music videos or new singles or finally the album coming out. And I feel like I've spoken about this many times on the show where Napster and Kazaa and LimeWire and stuff were so seminal in my life in kind of creating who I was, and playing games like Tony Hawk and all these, or even Guitar Hero that taught me about all these different types of music. I kind of found myself there, and I was like, all right, I like this. I don't need to worry about all this other stuff. I can just focus on the things that I like. And I dug real deep into it. And then I found the core groups of artists that I like really get into and kind of vibe with and understand where they're at, whether it's I like their music or just like what they're doing and all this stuff. And somewhere down the line, so I've spoken about them many times, but so Q&5 as a music collective, which is ran by Tone Deaf. But in addition to Tone Deaf, people I don't talk about that much, like there's this guy Pac FM, there's this other dude Substantial, there's a group called Cunning Linguists. They're probably
that's a good name.
Yeah, it is. They're probably the biggest thing from Q&5. I mean, they're definitely the biggest thing from Q&5. But what's interesting about them is that they, were 20-year-old, 19-year-old dudes 10 years ago. Yeah. And they decided to name their group Cunning Linguists because it's funny. Yeah. They're cunning linguists and whatever. And they made music that was just kind of fun and just, like, hey, we're underground and we're cool. And like, it was just perfect. It was such a time thing. And then they made another album that was the same way. And we were all kind of like, we're growing up with it. But then all of a sudden they got older and they were like, we're going to do something different. They put out a concept album called A Piece of Strange. And when it first happened, I didn't like it at all. And I'm like, this is not the fun dick jokes and stuff that I enjoy so much. But then it took me maybe like 2 years to like really, I wouldn't give up on it because I cared about these guys so much. I was like, it must be me that's the problem. Like one day it's going to click. And all of a sudden it clicked. And I'm like,
oh, nice.
Oh, I'm older. Like I get this. I get what they're doing. They're doing something different. And then they started doing more and more and more. And then I started realizing that my music taste kind of specifically, my passion is this independent hip hop stuff. And I love a lot of mainstream hip hop artists. Like I love Eminem, Lupe Fiasco, Kanye. Like I love these guys. But I really kind of segment it into two things that when people ask me, what do I recommend? It's two very different sectors. One is, it is the fun-loving stuff, like the old school Cunning Linguist stuff that is just cool and fun to listen to. And it kind of gets you, like in a mood, right? It's like a specific time. Then the other thing is this is an investment that you're doing. And it's kind of what you were talking about. Like you were involved in the artist's legacy, and you want to know every single song and the whole discography and how it fits together and why this album came after this one and the sounds and all this stuff. And I found that I look for artists that might not be that, but are just the more single fun, like I just like their sound. Like G-Eazy is a perfect example.
I like him.
This rapper that he's great. He's not like on this level of like super lyrical and like all this other stuff. Like he's not what you think when you think, underground rap, but it's not about that. It's like he makes fun music.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it, and so there's him, there's this guy XV, Kyle Lucas. Like there's a group of people that I would definitely recommend you guys at least listening to, because they all have unique sounds. They're just fun. And you listen to it and you're like, I like this. This guy's having a good time, But then on the other side of that, there is the modern day Cunning Linguist, which at this point, Piece of Strange came out in 2006. We've gotten a couple albums out of them, a couple different mixtapes, and there's 3 members. There's No, Deacon the Villain, and Natty. No's the producer, but he also raps sometimes, and the other guys are just rappers. But over time, Deacon has started producing as well. All that information goes to show that over the last 15 years, I've really kind of dedicated myself to loving the work that these guys do and seeing them evolve and seeing all this stuff grow. And each time they put an album since 2006, it's been either a concept or a themed album. And every one has a very different sound than the last, has a different production value, it has a different goal. And there's always like their follow-up album was called Honorology, which is the study of dreams. And the whole album just told a story about dreams. And and it was amazing.
I like heady shit like
that.
And
and A Piece of Strange had this like really, really deep thing with like so many metaphors and stuff. And it's like it told a story when you listen to the album, but you could also listen to the songs individually.
There's an album called A Piece of Strange.
A Piece of Strange. Yes.
That's a great turn of phrase.
And it's great. And it's like the whole thing, it tells this story of this, it's a story about a kid that decides he's going to be a rapper to get famous and stuff. But then he meets this girl that kind of ruins it because, he falls in love and like it distracts him from stuff. But the girl's name's Mary Jane, and she is also a metaphor for marijuana, who he gets like addicted to, and like that ruins his life in another way. And then her father is a racist, and he's black, she's white, so it causes all these problems. And it's like all of that is told through crazy metaphors and stuff. Like it's not directly said to you. You need to like listen to it. And I've listened to that album thousands of times, like if realistically hundreds of times. And like over the years, I've gotten little bit by bit, and I'm like, oh shit, like this is crazy. And recently, Deacon the Villain just released his first solo album, and he produced it himself and rapped on it and features a whole bunch of other people. And it's called Peace or Power. And it's another thing. It's like themed. It's very 70s funk, and it's fucking awesome. It came out last week. You guys should definitely check it out. And what blew me away by it, and the reason I kind of made this my topic, is the fact that I'm listening to this album and I'm like, man, this sounds totally different than anything I've heard before from them, but it has the same polish and the same energy and thought put into making a quality product, And I'm like, man, they did this for the me's out there, the people that are really dedicating themselves to like wanting to enjoy this stuff, and it's enjoyable to listen to. But there's no singles, there's no like that pop thing, and that's why I have the G-Eazys and the their old catalog and all that stuff to listen to. And it made me realize that the music that I recommend to people is the music where the artists really give a fuck about what they're making, and they're not just making stuff for the money or the whatever. It's like they're making it to make something that they totally believe in. And specifically when it comes to rappers, I think that the rappers that produce it themselves, so if they make the beat and rap over it, that shows a level of cohesion, that they have a vision for what this product's going to be. And anytime that happens, you can just tell. You can just tell that there's a magic to it and there's a thought behind it. And this is him coming into his own as a producer and a rapper and a singer. And I know I'm going on real long about this, but the last thing is, I think it's amazing because when people think rap song, they think 16 line verse chorus, 16 line verse chorus, 16 line verse chorus, done. Like if rap songs all have the same setup. This, I don't think there's a single song on the album that has that format. Like every single one has different, total varied formats, and totally like the time signatures are all weird. Like it's just very insane. So I definitely recommend Deacon the Villain, Peace or Power. Check it out.
I was gonna say before we before we go, because people do ask us, I guess just me and you mostly, about for album recommendations and band recommendations. I can't, it's sad because I can't really recommend too much of a contemporary nature, I don't think. But grab your pen and paper, my friends, out there. Because if you want a little taste of the psyche of Colin Moriarty's musical tastes, here's a few recommendations. Okay? Here's a few recommendations.
I'm writing these down in my brain.
The Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band, Magical Mystery Tour, The White Album, and Abbey Road. Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, Momentary Lapse of Reason, The Wall, etc. You can't go wrong with Pink Floyd. You can go Tears for Fears, songs from The Big Chair. I mean, there's a lot of good Tears for Fears stuff. Missing Persons, Real Life. These are good bands to listen to if you like new wave. Stone Temple Pilots, Purple and Core, two great records, really seminal records. Green Day, Kerplunk, Dookie, Nimrod. If you really, really want to listen to 311, I would start with Grassroots or Sound System. Can't go wrong with either of those albums. Those are very true albums to their sound. Ben Folds 5, self-titled, Whatever and Ever Amen. Unauthorized biography of Reinhold Messner, really good albums. De La Soul. You can't go wrong with anything from their catalog, but Stakes is High is my favorite. De La Soul.
Me too.
A Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders is my favorite, but you can't really go wrong with most of their catalog either. Muse, Absolution's a fucking really, 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 really good record. Dredge, El Cielo is maybe my favorite record of all time, with the exception of maybe Transistor by 311. Catch Without Arms is another good Dredge record. Fair to Midland is probably the newest band I listen to, although they're not together. Both of their records are really, really good. I don't know. Those are some good places to start.
Good starting place.
Those are some good places to start. But I wouldn't want to necessarily just to end there. So maybe we'll get back to it at some point. But those are some good places to start. Those Stone Temple Pilot records, by the way, I haven't gone back and listened to in a while. Core and Purple, those records are fucking awesome. They're so
You were playing them the other day in the car, I think.
Oh my God. Oh, Pearl Jam too. The first two Pearl Jam records.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's it.
And Weezer's Pinkerton.
Oh, I was gonna say Weezer's Blue album. And Sublime's self-titled album.
A
lot of people give 40 Ounces to Freedom a lot of credit, and I think it gets too much credit. I really do believe Sublime's self-titled album.
Which one had Century on it?
The self-titled album.
Yeah, that was the best.
The one that they made right when Bradley died, or that came out before. Like, it actually wasn't even out by the time he died. Oh my God. Oh my God. They're a band, and we've talked about this in the past, I think, Greg, with you and I, or maybe you and I talked about it, where I wonder, Sublime's so well remembered having released really only 2 records. And then they have like the Thief record, or whatever the fuck it's called, and like a few other things. But like they are pretty well remembered having done very little. And I often wonder.
It was like Hendrix, right? Like you look at Jimi Hendrix, and his career wasn't that long, but everyone remembers him as one of the greatest guitar players and like musicians.
Well, he had raw talent. Yeah, and I'm not saying that they didn't. They recorded live. They were very raw. But I just wonder if it's the same thing with Nirvana, frankly, but to even a greater degree, where I'm like, what would have happened to these guys had he not died? Would like anyone give a shit? Because I feel the same way about Nirvana, where I think Nirvana's great. Nevermind's a great album. In Utero, whatever the fuck that record's called, is really good. I mean, they have a good catalog, but we got Foo Fighters because of the.
Yeah, they would have broken up eventually, though. Nirvana was. You do that much heroin, you're gonna.
Self-destruct.
I know some people think it's sacrilegious to talk about Nirvana that way, but I'm curious what percentage of Sublime and Nirvana's popularity, and even Alice in Chains and other bands, where it's like, how good were they? Alice in Chains was excellent, but do we care more now because we can't ever
better
see
to
them
burn out than fade away.
Yeah. Anyway,
Tim, good topic.
Thank you.
It was sponsored by Loot Crate. Whoa. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Yeah, you did. You said all this stuff.
I
Up, you jerk.
know.
Would you classify yourself as a geek, gamer, or pop culture nerd? Then Loot Crate is a subscription box for you. Loot Crate is a subscription box service with more than $40 worth of geek, gamer, and pop culture gear, collectibles, apparel, comics, etc. delivered to your mailbox every month. Make sure you head to lootcrate.com/kindafunny and enter the code kindafunny to save $3 on any new subscription. This month's theme is time, and quite appropriately, we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future, the timeless appeal of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and the timey-wimey charm of Doctor Who.
Come on, son. It's good.
Do you know a lot about Doctor Who?
I don't know a lot about Doctor Who, but I know way more than I probably should about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Sorry, I just been all over the place. Fuck yeah, dude.
I didn't know that the timey-wimey. I'm getting a lot of tweets about that it is a Doctor Who thing. Confirmed.
I now know when I read this copy the first time ever, I understood it was a Doctor Who thing, but now thanks to Lego's Dimensions and playing through the Doctor Who level, first off, I understand the timey-wimey thing, and the Doctor Who thing seems funny. Okay. He was very funny when he was interacting with Batman. I don't know if he's like that all the time. But if he's having this caliber of conversation with Batman, I assume is that a funny guy? Is he a funny guy, Kev? You're nodding. Thanks, Kevin. Basically, Loot Crate is like a friend who knows what you love and surprises you with an awesome present every month. Did we mention they shipped over 13 different countries too? You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate. And when the cutoff happens, Jack, that's it. It's over. So go to lootcrate.com/kindafunny and enter the code kindafunny to save $3 on your new subscription today.
Now, there's something about this that I've been thinking about Loot Crates right up here. Why is it over 13 countries? That's a weird number, isn't it?
Over 13? Well,
like, why not just identify the number of countries?
They leave it open so that if they add more.
Well, maybe sometimes it fluctuates based on shipping and whatnot. So maybe sometimes they have 15.
Like, we shipped to 15 countries.
Yeah, I don't
right?
know. Well, because if you say over 13, every time you add a country, you don't have to go back and rewrite the copy.
And wait, does it say
future-proofing.
Over 13? It should be more than 13.
Yeah,
countries.
you go. Yes, yeah, but that's.
But I'm just. But that's enough. Of that.
Okay, I didn't hear the sirens from the grammar police over here.
Because we all had to learn to let go. A lot of people don't want to give up. You go
like
over a bridge.
Yeah.
Numbers are
What'd you say?
more than.
It's like every time I'm afraid to talk around you guys, like being a fucking Shark Tank. But the other day I was like, Colin, how do you? I was like, is ketchup hyphenated? And you're like, well, Nick. And then you went on a diatribe about
ketchup,
like ketchup. Which is like the condiments.
Because you didn't say catch up.
Well,
you
said, I don't enunciate enough. And then and you were like, oh, you can hyphenate it if you want. But I knew half of you was fucking with me. Like you always do. You two fuck with me. Tim fucks with me a lot too.
Yeah, but you definitely
Kevin and
said
I fuck with
ketchup.
Tim. That's the way it goes.
Which one did he say? Now I'm confused.
He
what
was
he's talking
trying to
about.
say catch up. But he definitely
like,
said
how do we catch up to Kevin? He's running down the street.
He's like, it's
Okay.
hyphenated. And then Colin's like, well, I mean, there's one way you could either do CATSUP or. I was
like,
wait, huh?
Oh, no,
what?
no.
And he got so confused.
Catch. There's not a huge difference in how you pronounce those two words.
To be fair, there's not. And especially when you're just saying
it's not like I was like, how do you spell popcorn? And he told me how to spell fucking jujubes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure I said ketchup.
FUCKIN apostrophe space jujubes.
Well, because I think catch up. No one ever really says let's catch up. They say. I think that it sounds more like catch up when you're just speaking.
Let's catch up. Okay.
All right.
Okay, I'm with you.
So I don't blame Nick, but oh man, seeing him get confused about the cat stuff.
Colin, he broke me. He broke me on that one because I can never tell if Colin's fucking with me or not. You guys are a lot smarter than I am, so I have to kind of be on my toes every once in a while. I often feel like the old person who is slightly sliding into dementia when I'm around you guys. Where I'm like, have we talked about this already?
I know that you want to get to the next topic, Greg.
Yeah.
But real quick, I need something clarified for me.
Sure.
What was the deal a couple days ago of you leaving the sink on?
Oh, I just totally. You know what it was? I turned both knobs to get the water like I'll usually start with hot and then I lather up and then I'm like shit that's too hot and I turned the cold on but just a little bit but I left the fan on. And so when I went to turn the hot off because that was the thing in my mind that I turned on, I just didn't look and it was the same harmonic resonance as the fan. So I couldn't hear that it was still on.
The same harmonic resonance
as the fan. Anyway, it sounded like the fan. So I just got confused. It was definitely on. But
It
was on a lot.
And then Kevin's
it was like a waterfall.
Kevin's like, Nick is old. Nick is like losing it. He's just leaving the sink
Look,
on.
I've been wanting to talk to you guys about my wardrobe. I'd like to just wear a muumuu the entire time and some house slippers. Is that possible? Can I leave house slippers here?
Yeah, I wish.
Can I really?
Yeah, leave house slippers here.
If I get a
100%.
pair for you guys, do you want house slippers?
Sure, let's all get some house slippers. Let's get monogrammed ones with the kind of funny logo and our names and stuff.
That would be That'd be fucking awesome.
If you run a house slipper emporium, please hit us up. Just
I
go
do
to
run a house slipper emporium.
Phone over
kindoffunny.com/forums
right now to email you.
Good. Yes, please do. Please do. All right, it's my topic. Now, my topic springs from Twitter and also from the recent community college shooting. So there's a whole bunch of things happening here. The background is that I started to write a response to this tweet, realized that I'm not at my computer enough during the day. This was going to start some kind of bigger conversation.
Right.
Not start shit as much as this is a real conversation and 140 characters don't go that way. So I wanted to bring it up to you and everybody else here and talk about it here. And I'm just looking at Tim.
Yeah, me
I want to
specifically.
bring it to the
Guys,
table
stay out of
and the
this one.
best friends to talk about it and then go from there. Now, I'll preface all of this with, it comes from a Destin Legary tweet. Destin, friend of ours, friend of the show. This isn't beef with Destin at all because other people were saying this, but his is the one I saw and what I want to talk about. Basically, there's this shooting, community college, horrible tragedy as always. We've heard it in the news. I'm sure Obama gives this speech and a million things going on. That's not even what we're talking about. What we're talking about is this tweet from Destin that said, "Hey, at USA Today, You don't need to name the fucking shooter. Get your shit together. And then it's a screen cap from the article. Article says, quote, "Let me be clear. I will not name the shooter," end quote. Douglas County Sheriff John Hanlon said at an evening press conference on Thursday. Quote, "Focus your attention on the victims and their families and helping them recover," end quote. Federal law enforcement officials nevertheless identified the shooter as, whatever his name is, it's blacked out here, who lived in the area. That is it, and that's what Destin is talking about, and that's what other people are doing. Now, it's rare that I get my journalism ire up and this degree and this Mizzou education and everything else. I want to know from around the table if this article should have identified the shooter. Tim.
I mean, this is interesting to me because it's one of those things where I don't really think deep enough about a lot of this stuff to the sense of like how that affects everything and like how people will, people will feel about it. So like my gut reaction is it's just like, I mean, immediately I'm like, yeah, just name him because that's the news.
Yeah.
But then the moment I see someone gets upset about it, is like, why are you naming it? We should focus on the victims. I'm like, oh, I totally agree with that.
Right.
We should focus on the victims. Why are you giving this guy any attention? You know what I mean?
Sure.
I guess it's one of those things where it's like things kind of trigger new thoughts.
You see each side of the argument.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So, but I mean, I guess I would end up on like, why put his name out there?
Okay.
Like, I don't see an advantage to it.
See, I would disagree. And I think that part of the reason why, and I think we're getting a lot smarter about when these things happen, about not necessarily looking at the person that commits these crimes as a heinous evil entity that needs to be stricken from the earth, right? A lot of the conversation turns toward why did he do it? What was, was he suffering from a mental disability? Was it an upgrading thing? We're looking to try to figure out reasons why these things happen so that we can potentially avoid them in the future. And I think one step toward doing that is to humanize the person that commits these crimes, not put him in a place where he is like a Voldemort, right? Which is this evil thing that shall not be named, and really say that this person suffered from something that made him do this. There was something that was happening.
That sounds like it's victimizing him.
So I'm not. No. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this guy was a victim. I don't condone in any way, shape, or form this horrible thing that he's done. But at the same time, there is, I think, something to be benefited from of looking at him as a human being and saying, okay, he did this. What were the circumstances that led up to this that we could potentially glean some insight from that may or may not help prevent the next one?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely. I mean, I agree with that completely. I just think that having it be it's like not excuses, but like he did this because of this. It's not his fault. It's because of this.
Sure, but imagine
it's true that we need to fix this. Like it's true that
but how do you fix that? Like, to my point is like if you're out there and you're depressed or you're having these thoughts of like potentially wanting to go out and commit a crime or hurt yourself, and you see this person that's done it and you understand what led him to it. If someone were to go on and say this person was suffering from bipolar disorder or supreme depression, it was on the wrong pill, or needed this treatment that he could have gotten but didn't get, and you're suffering from that, maybe some good can come from that. And I'm not saying that, we expect good to come from bad, but isn't that what we're supposed to do? Aren't we supposed to learn from our mistakes and try to figure out a way to progress forward and grow as a species? And isn't the best way to do that not to necessarily be like, oh, we're going to, like, keeping his name out of I understand why people want to keep his name out of the news, and potentially one of the reasons is because they see that maybe, okay, you're going to draw attention to this guy. What is he going to be? He's going to be famous for committing a crime instead of the victims who need to be, who should have some exposure because they were victims of this crime. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think I was going to look at this guy and be like, okay, he's a Ted Bundy. We're going to revere him forever as this weird kind of crazy, mythical criminal figure, or Al Capone. I think that this person was, and again, I don't know what he was suffering from. I haven't followed the story that closely.
I don't think we know yet. And that's not. I mean, that's.
Maybe we won't. But don't you want to know? Isn't there something more to? Colin was, and I'm sure we'll get into it eventually. But Colin was sort of screaming at his TV when this whole thing was happening, because of course Obama has to come on and he has to tout the gun control argument. Well, yeah, we need stiffer gun control policies, but at the end of the day, everyone knows that, and I hate to bring the old saying up, but like, it's not necessarily the fact that the guy had a gun that is what mattered. It's why he chose to do this. What led him to this horrible place in his life where he decided to go and take other people's lives? What can we glean from that? How do we identify that on our own children or our friends' children and say, hey, this person has these tendencies, or maybe he needs a little bit of help before he gets to that point? Because once you get to the point where you're about to go out and steal a gun or take your parents' gun or take your neighbor's gun, it's too late. At that point, it's too late. You've already hit a level in your brain chemistry that's saying this is the right thing to do. I have to do this. I have no other options, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so hold on. Colin, was it right to report the guy's name?
Yes, I think it shows a profound ignorance of journalism. when people are going around trying to hide facts of a story. Now, if you write an editorial or an op-ed or an opinion piece of some sort, then you could have some sort of policy individually or as a publication to not use the name.
Colin nails it. And this is what was driving me fucking crazy on the day, is that this wasn't what you're talking about is a bigger feature.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Of what's going on, how these people get their guns. You know what I mean? The guy who shot the reporter and the interview subject and the cameraman from where he used to work, right? That wasn't even a gun he stole. He had his own gun. This is a different thing. When you're talking about features down the road, that's when I feel like, okay, maybe we don't need to bring up the name. We don't need to do this. This is spot news. I think it made me angry. Not just the fact that like this is a belief people have that this needs to be censored when we're talking about how you want your journalism and your news unfiltered and you want to be able to get all the facts and figures, right? What you're taught in J school is that when a dog is run over on Main Street, what's the name of the dog? Like, you need to get all of these facts out there. You're standing in for people to explain the situation. So if the Douglas County Sheriff says he's not going to name the shooter, that's super weird and short-sighted. And I get it. Well, I get it.
What's the point of not naming him? He's a
criminal. He's a small community reeling from this, and he has friends and family members who have been directly affected, and he doesn't give a flying fuck about journalism and what the story is. I understand.
So he just
he's
doesn't
in a
want to hurt
grieving
his
process.
society.
He's at ground zero. All hell's breaking loose around him.
Right.
The last thing he's thinking about is this fucking sociopath who did this and wanting to get. You know what I mean?
Sure,
I get that.
But at the same time, I mean, if that crime is considered on the level as of other crimes that are federal offenses, like I assume murder is still a federal offense. Like someone robs a bank, would you even hesitate to release that person's name if you caught him?
Now, see, here,
would you even hesitate to be like, we have a suspect in custody, his name is this person.
No,
this is what
but
he fucking
see, the
looks
problem
like,
is that we're now even talking about a different thing. I think in terms of what he's protecting, where Destin's. And I shouldn't even say Destin, but where this movement of people saying this and wanting this, where they're coming from, I think that's more in the headspace of 24-hour CNN, right? Like when we were doing Colin and Greg Live, when all this stuff happened with the shooting, right? We came out, started eating lunch, and turned on the TV to get the thing. And after 5 minutes tops, we had all the information there possibly is to fucking talk about this, but they kept going and they kept talking and they kept doing this. And I turned it off at one point and we joked about it, right? Of like, oh, I'm gonna miss it. I'm like, nothing. Everything's still fucked. They have no information. You know what I mean? I have to set up this Xbox for a Let's Play or whatever. Like, there is another situation of I get it in a different way. You know what I mean? The problem is, of course, with CNN or anything that's 24 hours and is the fact that you always have someone new coming in. It's like that
was MSNBC, I think we were watching, wasn't it?
Yeah, Brian Williams looked like he was gonna hang himself.
An animated puppet. They were like, just get him off the screen.
Hours and hours. Brian Williams was like, his head was like 200
and it was the same fucking helicopter shot of the campus where it was like slowly spinning.
And that's the problem. And like, I feel for them. I do. And I don't think people say that enough for 24/7 news, because it's similar, stick with me on this, to what we do on Twitch, right? Yeah, we talked about the biggest news story as soon as the show started, but when you joined 15 minutes late, how many times do we see it in the chat? Did they talk about this yet? Is this thing happening? Whenever you heard about the shooting and you thought to turn on your TV, you want to know about the shooting right then and there, which leads to this fucking terrible cycle of we have these 5 facts and we'll continue to talk about them and we'll continue to say this person's name and whatever it is and what people think glorifying is or whatever. It's a fucked up situation the way we consume news, and you hope that the internet and the on-demand content of CNN.com or wherever you go for your news, AP.com, wherever you're going, you're getting the information when you want it, how you want it, so it doesn't have to be 24/7 the guy's face, the guy's name.
Well, that's a big problem with television in general right now, and especially television news, right? My wife talks about it a lot because she's at home during the day. Because of the nature of her work, that she gets hours off here and there, and she'll turn on MSNBC, which to her unfortunate dismay started featuring Brian Williams during the day, and she was like, well, that's it, I can't watch anything now because CNN has now gone the way of Fox News, where they are trying to pick that one big story that everyone gives a shit about and sensationalize it from their perspective. And she thought MSNBC might have been the last quasi fair and balanced news outlet out there. But it's true. It's like there's so many other fucking things happening in the world, and the school shooting, because it is polarizing, because everyone's interested in it, becomes an entertainment source almost. It's not about the story anymore. And that's where it comes down to this. Is like this. You don't need to release his name is another way of keeping that conversation going. Keeping this relevant in people who are like, I'm into this, so I'm going to keep this conversation going far past the point where it needs to go. Like, why would you even think about talking about that, right? there's a precedent. We have freedom of speech. We have freedom of information. We have we deserve as a public to know who this is. Plus, it tells everyone out there that, hey, not only do we know who this guy is, we caught him, he's dead, unfortunately. He took his own life, but it's good. For right now, the situation is over. We can start the mourning process. We don't have to be worried that there's a fucking killer out there somewhere.
Yeah, but we don't need the name for that.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's like I don't get this. Like, I don't understand why the public needs to know a name.
Because he's a criminal.
I
Who
committed a
cares?
crime.
I don't need to know.
I'm going to tell you why.
Because that's what we
I'm going to tell you why I need to know. I'm going to put it out there right now. We're going to talk about this.
Put it on,
As we've already been talking about for
put it on
20
the
minutes.
table.
When I was reading stories and people weren't naming the name, I just went and looked. So that's number one. I was like, I need to know who this guy is. I have no idea who this guy is. Who is he? You know, I was like, I want to know, you know? Now, the bigger thing, and I'm surprised we're not touching on this, is that when you do something like this, now again, I want to reiterate, hard news, right? So the AP, Reuters, the news wires, all that kind of stuff should be naming and weren't naming names. Absolutely. That's a fucking ridiculous policy. And I'm surprised, and again, I'm not singling out Destiny either, but anyone who is out there being like, in a news story, you shouldn't be naming the killer, you don't know fucking anything about journalism if that's the way you feel. Sorry. You know? Now, if you want to have an op-ed or, again, like a policy of like, now that the news is out there and we have the news piece, this happened. And then you have another piece that's like, why did this happen? And you can have a thing on the top saying, we have a policy of not naming the murderer, but we're going to talk about him, blah, 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 in this editorial piece. But the hard news is the hard news. What happened is what happened. That is journalism. So like to that point, what I think this kind of mentality is bringing us to, and this is the unfortunate thing about it, is we have a situation where they're like, let's pretend this is a gun, right? They're like, this happened. The gun is the problem, right? And to me, I'm like, okay, that's a valid point of view. The gun is the problem. Okay. It is part of the problem. There's no doubt about that. What about the person who committed the crime?
Yeah.
Does he have any responsibility? Since we're not going to name him and we're just going to keep him as an anonymous person, then he doesn't really even exist. So now the gun is the problem. His access to the weapon is the problem. It's not that he has fucking mental issues. It's not the fact that his parents probably sucked. It's not the fact that he's probably a fucking idiot. None of that's relevant. The gun.
Right.
Because we don't know who else did it. It's the same thing that happened in Newtown. Adam Lanza was the murderer of those children. And who was responsible for the murder of those children? Adam Lanza and his mother. Because his mother was the one that bought the guns. His mother was the one that taught her mentally incapacitated son how to use them. But it's the gun. That's the problem.
Right.
You know? And so this kind of mentality is taking away the responsibility of the fucking act from the individual and putting it on inanimate objects. And I don't accept that. And it all goes back. I'm telling you, it all goes back to this fucking mentality. Where's the scapegoat? It's not the person that did it. It's not his own problems or his own, it's the gun. And that's I'm telling you,
they're not taking the guy out of it though. They're just saying like the name's
But they
not
are.
They
They're
are taking him out of it.
dehumanizing him, and they're saying
the-
this is not a real person.
The dialing back of, if you're not, and again, this is the hard news. I mean, like, there's so many different threads to jump on now. You know what I mean? By taking him out of it, you are removing the fact of like, what is his upbringing? How is this? What were his issues? How are these things? You're ignoring it. It's such a complex issue that you need to know all the facts. I don't like, if you can't deal with the fucking guy's name being in the newspaper, you can't even begin to deal with this fucking problem in our country.
But then, I mean, those people shouldn't be dealing with it. The people that should be dealing with it are the people that know the name, figuring that stuff out, and then talking about that stuff.
But the problem is that there's no easy trajectory for that, Tim. This is a community. This is a problem for us as a people, as a race, as a species. That's where I'm going. Not a race. Only us white people have to deal with that. Kevin, you're free on this.
Well,
one.
to be fair, I think wasn't there a statistic that most people that shoot up like schools are white?
Yeah, it's usually as far as I understand, it's not necessarily.
Sorry, to derail that.
No,
you had a really good point.
To interject, and I read about this. It's not necessarily white people. The white people do a lot of shootings per capita. It's pretty even. It's a male issue, and so like the Fort Hood shooter was a Muslim. The guy who shot the news anchors was black. Adam Lanza was white. This guy's white. The shooter in the movie theater was white. So it's spreading out across race. I really think it's an endemic male issue. And that's not an original thought with me. I never thought about that. I saw that somewhere.
It's an interesting thought.
To the point though, there's so much more to this story than the gun. You know what I mean?
Like, I don't even take that though. It's like they're still the person. It's just not giving the person the credit.
Do you care about the person if you don't have a physical, an actual intimate connection with that person, right? You have to think about how people connect with each other. and that is with faces and names. That's all we have, right? Thumbnails and headlines, like you're always talking about. These are the insights into this person's life. And if you don't give us that as a general public, we don't have all the tools we need to actually form an opinion on what happened. What Colin's talking about
that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't need a face.
No, but if I told you someone got killed outside in a car accident,
yeah. If
I told you my brother got killed outside in a car accident named Matt Scarpino,
yes.
Wouldn't that have a different emotional? You'd be like, what the fuck? How is he? Is he okay? Who killed him? What happened? All those things. If I just said someone got killed, you'd be like, whatever. It's someone I don't know. I don't know that person. But there's a difference, though, when it's not the person getting killed, it's the person killing. Sure.
Like,
you don't give a shit who hit my brother? You know what I mean? Like, if I told you, this is the thing I'm talking about. If I told you someone got hit by a car accident, okay, we don't know the person that got hit, but someone hit someone, right? And then I told you that person's name. And then I told you that person came from a background of an alcoholic family that was abusive when they grew up. Wouldn't that give you slightly more insight as to why he might have been driving drunk that day? Or do we just going to blame the fact that he was in a fucking car and we should regulate cars to only drive 50 miles an hour?
Or you should blame the alcohol.
Or the alcohol.
And so
we should stop serving alcohol.
And that's the point I'm trying to make.
These are the problems that you have.
I think this will explain it best, and you might not agree, but I don't know how you guys feel about it. When you remove the person who did it, and I'm not saying he can justify himself, he's dead first of all, he can't defend himself. And I don't think he killed himself. I actually think cops killed him.
Oh, did they shoot him? Did they?
I want one of these motherfuckers to live at some point. That would be really fantastic, so we can kill him as a society. Death penalty.
See, I mean,
now
I respect where your emotions are there, but at the same time, I would like them to live so that we could actually figure out and talk to them and be like, why did you do this?
Well, we'll figure that out in the trial, but eventually they'll be put down. And this is another example of why the death penalty is such an obvious thing that we should have. But so here's my rationale for it. If you remove the information, the extraneous information, or information you might think is extraneous, so like an individual perpetrated the crime, you probably assume he's a white male. I mean, that's a safe assumption. But then it's like, where did he come from? And this is information I want to know. I'm like, did he have both of his parents in his house? Just as an example, I grew up in a divorced family, so I'm not throwing stones.
Sure.
But like, there's a lot of salient information that can be garnered about, since he's not even alive to tell his story. We have to kind of figure out: did he have a manifesto? Did he post something on social media? What did his teachers think about him when he was in school? What did his friends have to say about him? Did he have a girlfriend or a boyfriend? Like, there's like all of these kind of questions that I want answered. And here's the thing: when you remove the individual and then all of the personal shit left, all you are left with is scapegoats. And every time this happens in the United States, and I agree it happens way too often in the United States, it comes back to the same fucking issue, which is the inanimate object, the weapon. And I think that it is certainly a factor. It is certainly a factor. But I'm all, even as a Republican, I don't own guns, but I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in common sense gun control laws. Absolutely. I think that we should have more stringent background checks. I think there should be a cool down period. I wouldn't have any problem with you going in and buying a gun and saying you can't have it for 30 days. I have no problem with that.
Sure.
Unless maybe you're a military, police, whatever. But like, there's going to be exceptions. But I have no problem with that at all. I have no problem saying no felons. I have no problem saying that there's got to be a magazine limit on assault rifles, whatever it is. Right. Sure. I think that's totally fine, because I do agree that the Second Amendment was written in late 1780s and times have changed. But then it comes down to these disingenuous arguments about guns. And it really bothers me. Here are some facts, okay? Violent crime in the United States is going down. Gun deaths, down. All violent crimes, down. You know what I mean?
I bet if you looked at that, it was going down in states where marijuana was legal, by the way.
Well, so
cross-check
but there are some facts that might be inconvenient to the gun control, right? Like, states with better gun control have fewer gun deaths. No doubt about that, right?
Sure.
Except for places where guns are basically banned, like Chicago, which is a fucking shithole when it comes to, and no offense, when it comes to gun violence. We all know it. You know what I mean? There were like 40-something shootings last week in Chicago, but no one talks about that. You know what I mean? Because it's all about the story and the scapegoat to get what you want. And what people want, even though they argue about it disingenuously, is a gun ban. And anyone that talks, and I just want to say this really quick, because this is especially coming from people, the Twitter sphere going crazy about it, people talking about gun bans. I'm about pragmatic and practical solutions. And I'm just going to say what needs to be said. Guns will never be banned in the United States. Ever. It will never happen. I want to repeat that. It will never happen. So, because what's required of that to happen is 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate, and then the real big lift, which is 3/4 of state legislatures. And I can name you 25 states that would never do it. So how are you going to solve this? So the Second Amendment's there and it's not going anywhere. So what are the things we can do to solve the problem? But since we don't have a systematic approach to identifying the cause and the root, and maybe the gun's an issue in this case, maybe it's not, maybe his mental health's an issue, maybe it's not, maybe he's totally mentally healthy, in which the gun might be the bigger problem. But we don't know that because we don't talk about the perpetrator. And let me just finish real quick. I'm sorry. I just want to say that we have these reductive arguments about, well, let's ban guns. You hear people, it's like, it's not going to fucking happen. So what can we do? You know, let's talk about practical solutions. Let's compromise instead of one extreme, which says like, I want my assault rifles, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to hoard my weapons. And the other side is like, guns are bad and blah, blah, blah. You don't need guns and stuff. And I'm like, well, isn't there a place we can get at in the middle? But since we use these situations politically, which is why I was mad at Obama on the TV that day, instead of him being, you know, it's like, why don't we just get together and say, like, within the confines of our system, in which the Second Amendment is sacred to many Americans, most Americans, in fact, why not try to find a solution to withdraw the weapons? And also, let's put common sense back into the equation, and let's blame the people that took the inanimate object and pointed it at someone.
But that's a bigger issue, and this is the problem. This is, to your point, is like, people don't want the solution to and they don't want the answer to the problem. They want quick sound bites that they can jump on and then put it away. Right. And that's what politicians do. I would fucking love it if one time, if the president of the United States said, you know, it's not about the guns. Let's figure out what's wrong with this kid, and let's look at our healthcare system, or let's look at these fucking pills that doctors are pushing down people's throats, that are these fucking one pill rules all concept, and figure out if they're actually working for people. Like, was he on antidepressants? What was his fucking deal? Like, what was wrong with this person, or what led him to this? And how can we fix that? And what in our society? But I mean, you're never going to hear that. You're never going to hear the president say anything out against fucking big
one term Joe Biden will.
It's never going to happen. It's just not going to happen, right? And it's fascinating. There's all sorts of studies that come out, and we just don't fucking do anything about it. But with Colin's point is, it's a lot easier for politicians to come on and talk about gun control. This is
back to the whole our Ferguson episode, and where at the end when I was all distraught and angry, and it's a cycle that something else is going to pop up here in a little while and distract everybody and do it. And that comes back to what this is. My problem with this, and why does his name matter, right? Is that this is reality. This is what's really happening, and the press's job is there to inform you of that. So for the government or this sheriff to stand in the way of that and people be backing him up for that, I have a problem with, because it's not going to be a solution that comes from the top down. It's got to come from the ground up. It's got to be people finally saying they've had enough, and how do we fix this, and having compromised discussions and getting mental health back on the books and making that a priority.
And letting sure everyone know that he did it. You know what I mean?
That's the problem, though. It's like, you know, you're talking about all these mental health, you're talking about all this stuff. It's like, there's a huge chance that that's what he wanted. That was the goal of this, is making everyone know that he did it.
But that's fine. What? If you want notoriety, that's fine. It's not the news organizations. And I want to differentiate the wires and hard news from op-ed and Drudge Report and all that kind of stuff that does, you know, or synthesizes more opinion editorial kind of content. Ultimately, if that's what he wanted, that's kind of what it is. I mean, it's unfortunate, and we don't want to play into that to the nth degree. My sense, though, Tim, and what I'm saying, and I think it is a salient point and an interesting point, and a point that goes to what Nick and Greg might be saying, is that, and my biggest problem with it is that when we remove the character, we remove his responsibility. And then it becomes about all sorts of other shit. It is not the gun's fault. I know,
but then it becomes the fault of mental health, or the fault of whatever it is.
But that's what we should be talking about. And to Greg's point, is that the way change happens is not the way it should happen, right? Which is someone goes, someone in a political sphere goes, there's a problem here, it's mental health. Let's figure this out. Let's pass legislature to clean up, you know, what's happening with our healthcare pharmacies. That's not how it works. Well, how it works is people who are on the lower on the totem pole, people go, no, we want to know what really fucking caused this. We want to know what was wrong with this person. And from that, we have an informed perspective that we can go and hopefully fucking talk to our representatives and be like, you need to change something. And it's not gun control, right?
I mean,
that's how we affect change. And it has to be an overwhelming sense of, we need to understand all the facts. And one of the biggest facts is this person's name. And granted, I
just don't understand that. It's like,
who was he?
But a name and a face, it's like, great. Then what do you know from them? You know the color of their skin and a name.
Okay, so stop for a second, though, and just stick with me. So at what point do you want the name cut off? Should the name not be released to the press?
I mean, I don't know. I'm just.
I'm
saying,
asking you.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just saying. It's
Let's
just
say
like,
that was the case. Sheriff says, I'm not going to release this man's name or whatever, right? And press just says, okay, fine, right? This is the CNN story that's up, and it's up for today. It went up at 5:02 Eastern, so whatever the hell time it is now, right? Online writings about guns, Asperger's linked to Oregon shooter's mom. The apparent online writings of the mother of the man who killed 9 people in a community college in Oregon discuss guns and the autism spectrum, painting a partial picture of the environment the family lived in, their beliefs, and the challenges they faced, right? If the name's never released, this kind of reporting's never done. And maybe the FBI, whoever, FBI, local police, they're digging in and finding that information, but are they sharing that on a level? Are they informing the populace? I mean, that's what the fucking press does, is inform the populace. You can't hide that information from people. And that's just my thing.
I mean, but this thing to me, I think this is a huge problem where it's autism's fault. It's not his fault. It's autism.
Now you see, but this is what I'm talking about. Stick with me, all right? Is that it's our job to not hear that it's autism's fault and stop there. You know what I mean? We have more information at our fingertips than ever, and we are so stupid with it. You know what I mean? And we see it all the time where, okay, Ferguson's done, now we'll move on to the next thing and forget about it. We need somebody sitting there, not saying that it's autism's problem, but there needs to be, here's the warning signs we could have learned from him in interviewing this, and how does this play? It's to bring it back to our kind of people's logic, right? It's like 1989 Batman, right? It's not that just the deodorant was making people turn into the Joker. It was the combination of elements, so you knew what to look for, if that makes sense. Thank you. That's what I do. That's what I try to do.
Yeah, I think that, I think it just, when we go down a rabbit hole with shootings, it exposes us to very reductive arguments, and I don't think it's productive. I think that each shooting, and I hate to even say that each shooting, there are too many, but we have to take them on a case-by-case basis. At some point, the gun is the problem. At some point, the parenting is the problem. At some point, the mental capacity of the person is the problem. The lack of education, the lack of consequences. There's all sorts of different things. We've always had guns in the United States. We've always had a lot of them. We have over 300 million guns in the United States. I want to be clear. There are about 320 million people. There's almost a gun per person in the United States. Now, and I don't want to reduce, every gun death is a tragedy. But here's a stat, and I was writing these down before. The FBI released these stats. In 2012, there were 8,855 gun deaths in the United States. It's 24 a day. That's a lot of gun deaths, right? But then compare it to 320 million people, and then compare that number to with 300 and some odd million guns. And you realize that the number is still minute. Now, I'm not taking away the argument that one gun death is too many gun deaths. We have to figure this out. It's a bad thing. But we talk about it like people really think that when you come to the United States, it's like the fucking Wild West. Yeah. And it really, I hate to tell you, it isn't.
I wish you'd have looked up stats on how many people die of lung cancer every year.
And here's the other thing, that because people are like, we got to get rid of these big magazines. We got to get rid of the assault rifles, because this is where the argument goes. When you don't have anyone to blame except for the guns, this is where the argument goes. 6,371 of the 8,855 gun deaths were from handguns. So we're never going to ban handguns. So it's this ridiculous thing, like where I was reading another thing where it's like 23% of guns purchased by felons that are in jail for violent crimes or deaths were purchased legally. That means 77% of guns were purchased illegally. This all goes to the point of like, maybe gun control is only a part, and I do think gun control is part of the solution, but it's not the entire solution. And I don't like that when we remove the human element, even if the human's evil, clearly, that we come back to these same tired fucking arguments that don't take into account statistics, and they go like, well, in England or in Australia where guns are banned and stuff like that, well, the death rate is 4 times lower. So I'm like, oh, so it's 0.0001 instead of 0.001 like it is in the United States. I mean, we're talking about minute numbers that are frankly fucking ridiculously overblown. And let's keep in mind that we have way more people than these other countries too. So the per capita situation is also different. And then a lot of people from around the world are chiming in and being like, basically talking about us like we're barbarians. You know what I mean? And I don't like that shit either. Yeah. Like we have a tradition in the United States with gun ownership, and it's not going anywhere. And these are just facts on the ground. So let's talk about the human element. Let's talk about why Adam Lanza's mother is just as responsible as he is for Newtown. Let's talk about who this fucking guy is that shot up this fucking community college in Oregon. And maybe I know it's hard to believe, maybe he bears some responsibility for his actions. I know it's hard to believe because he used a gun. You know,
Well,
but
Colin,
the gun
we all
will
know-
sit on the fucking
we all know that
table
the-
until he picked it up.
We all know that the gun spoke to him, and it got up and actually had legs and walked into his hand and walked him over and made him do all these things. Tim, to your earlier point, though, let's flip the switch, right? So say there's a police shooting, right, and we don't know anything about the cop or anything about the victim. What do we know then? We just draw the conclusion that all cops are bad, right? We don't have a lot to draw conclusions off of. But if we knew the name of the officer and he happened to be a white officer and the victim happened to be black, well, then there are other conclusions we can draw from that. Right?
I know, but that's the thing. That's the problem I have with it is that, like, yeah, there's a bunch of conclusions uneducated people can draw from it. That's great.
And people do, but then there's people like us who take the time for an hour to talk about them, right? And to actually talk about these issues, which is one of the reasons why I like podcasting, right? We get different perspectives. I'm not saying your perspective is right or wrong.
I know.
I'm just saying, and you're absolutely entitled to it. And I think that there is a lot to be said by looking at the crime as a whole and trying to figure out if there's a reason for that. But you have to have more information, and the onus falls on us to, the people out there that are listening, to provide that other perspective for them and say, like, look, there are pros and cons to all of this, but to me personally, I think there are better conclusions we can draw from this horrible thing that happened that can hopefully we can find some sort of silver lining in it that may or may not be able to stop it from happening again, right? And I don't pretend to know the ins and outs of gun control, but I do know that, to Colin's point, yeah, there is an inanimate object sitting on the table. I could pick that up and use it for bad things. But what's more important is why I'm doing it, right? It's similar to any movie, right? Any movie that has a great character, you want to know why the character's doing what he's doing. It doesn't matter what he's doing, right? Movies that are boring are just characters that are just going through fucking, like, driving fast cars and pretending like they're family. No, those are good movies. But to the point, that one of the reasons why we do like a movie like Fast and Furious, because we do want to know why these people do what they do, and they do it for family. And so it's a basic human need to understand what drives all of us and draw conclusions from
I totally
that and
get that.
I
don't know. It's like going back to what I was saying earlier about, like, when you first asked me what I think about, it's like, I think this, then you tell me more information. I'm like, oh, well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's like hearing this, it's like, yeah, the moment that it's taken away, then everyone just wants to know. Then that starts a conversation of its own. That's
The Streisand effect, I believe they call it.
Exactly. And it's like, well,
The
fuck,
Streisand
man.
effect's
It's like,
rough, man.
that's the thing is, it's like at the end of the day, this shouldn't have happened. This was fucked up. This guy was bad. Period. Like that's the only fact that is, as far as I'm concerned, a fact that is necessary. All the rest of the stuff is we need to fix it. I think that is a fact. Will we? I don't know. How are we going to go about this? I don't know.
As long as we keep having these extreme conversations, I'm not talking about this. This isn't an extreme conversation at all, but these extremes of, like,
You're talking about sound bites on CNN.
yeah, like bury the lead, or, which is who it is, in my opinion, or have these extreme conversations about gun bans by people that clearly have no idea how the constitutional amendment process works. I say somewhere in the middle is where we have to meet, as usual.
Sure.
And
I mean, that makes sense. Like, I agree with that entirely. Like, the one thing I don't agree with is that the fact that the lead is the name. Like, I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't understand why the name and the face is so important when it's a person. I get what you're saying about the, like, it's dehumanizing and then you need this thing, but it's just like, then all of a sudden you're just drawing conclusions based off someone's name and face that are so, like, it's completely crazy to me that it's like, if this person was a Asian woman, this person's a white man or whatever, and then the Asian woman kills the person. It's like, let's draw conclusions from that based on the fact that she's Asian and a woman.
But that's not the point. I mean, to Greg's point, the point is that once we know who he is, then we can delve into his past and figure things out. And I'm just curious for answers, even though the answers are going to be nebulous, and because he's dead, we'll never know for sure. But I do want to say that, the numbers are the most important thing to me, and that's why I brought them up. 320 million people, 300 million guns, 8,000 gun deaths. Right. That's 8,000 is too many. One gun death is too many. But we look at it through this weird lens where I'm like, that's a really still. And I don't want to sound cold or because that's not my intention. But I'm like, that's really not a lot of people compared to the amount of guns.
But also,
so 8,000 of the 300 million guns were used in a crime, and then the 99.9% of that own guns and are totally legal and law-abiding people, they suffer now because everyone else doesn't know how to use a fucking gun. That is such a bullshit fucking solution to a problem is to punish the fucking majority, the vast majority of people that own them and are legal and upstanding people, because a few fucking unbalanced people don't know how to use a gun or do evil things. Everyone has to suffer. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. I believe in personal responsibility.
And these are where it becomes dangerous to draw these top line conclusions, right? And this is why it's important that you have all the facts and you do go down that rabbit hole, is because when you start talking about just raw top line statistics, right? Gun death. This person walked in and shot a bunch of people. Okay, well, what conclusions do we draw from that, right? Probably similar conclusions if I were to tell you the majority of crime happens in impoverished areas in the United States, right? So what conclusion do you draw from that? It's a very top line conclusion of something's wrong there, right? These people are bad. Does that mean everyone that's poor is bad? Right, but that's the only conclusion you can really draw from that until you start diving deeper and realizing that there's a cycle of violence that happens in these areas.
With it is that I completely agree with that.
Right,
but who is the people diving deeper? It's not all the people reading this.
No, but it is, and it's supposed to be.
It's not because them diving deeper is not like the people doing the research about this stuff. It's them. They're the ones diving deeper. Like, how do we get them that information? Because it's relevant to them.
Right.
Like. Then let them tell us this, because this is they have something to fucking tell us of. Hey, maybe it's actually this, not just a fucking face. Like,
I hear you, and I'm like you said earlier. I don't think it's a night and day kind of white switch here. You know what I mean? But like the point of I go back to again is like this is reality. This is what happened. It doesn't matter that like that offends you or that's that it's a horrible thing as it clearly is. Like that's what happened, and like. The reporter is there to report that to you and tell you what happened. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Am I making sense?
I mean, that makes sense. I just think that it's bad because it is the things that happen, but people aren't responsible to handle that information.
Yeah, but you can't treat people like that. You can't.
I know, but the moment you don't treat people like that, then you have these people fucking doing this shit.
It's the opposite, man. You think that way, but it's the opposite. You have to trust that people are fundamentally smarter and better. We have to trust that. You can't treat people like we're fucking childish idiots. I know the mainstream media does and markets to that, but that is not. We can't do that. You just can't. You simply can't cater to the lowest common denominator.
I don't know, man.
You cannot do that.
I think that it messes everything up.
There's no way to.
Here's the big thing about it is what my whole thing is. I first off don't name the shooter argument. I don't understand. I don't think it matters. You know what I mean? Like I don't think knowing Adam Lanza's name makes him the new Charlie Manson, the new Ted Bundy.
He's notorious.
Nobody wants to be that, and I think the majority, the overwhelming majority of people who hear it, know it, learn it, or whatever, they don't remember it, revere him, think of him. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand what.
But we're not talking about the majority. We're talking about the fucked up people that are doing this.
But like that doesn't matter because it's not even so much the fact that he went out to kill people to make his message known. He went out to kill people. You know what I mean? Like this, that his action is being reported regardless. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather know the information behind it to try to have someone figure out how to stop it. And like I said earlier, it's on all of us to learn warning signs, triggers. Maybe it is a thing of maybe there is a parent out there right now who has a developmentally challenged child, right? And is thinking of like, maybe I should now do something different with my guns. Maybe I do need to handle this in a different way. You know what I mean? Because it's like time after time, if that is what we're going back to, that we go down this line, I have the guns legally, but I have this wild card.
Yeah, and I think that, and here's the thing that I think is most important. Whatever, I don't even know this guy's name off the top of my head. Let's say they look into him, they figure it out, and they're like, this guy was totally on the up and up. He was a straight A student. He had great friends. He had a happy home life. We draw the conclusion, therefore, that it was access to guns that really was a problem. And I'd be like, okay, like you did the due diligence, and we didn't jump to a conclusion. But I'll tell you, just like in virtually every other mass shooting in the United States, the gun is the last thing you really need to worry about.
But even then, I wouldn't draw that parallel that it's access to guns. I would be like, okay, well, this guy was just an evil fuck.
Yeah, well, but what I'm saying is
there's no conclusion. There's nothing you can do about it. Because guess what? I could go out right now. I consider myself a fairly well-adjusted person. I can get in my car and kill someone if I want to. I can. I can do whatever the fuck I want. We have to trust that people overwhelmingly, and the majority of people aren't going to do that.
And that's the point, is that the overwhelming majority of Americans, even though a lot of people overseas think we're like fucking barbarians living in fucking Wild West 1850, we do have an upstanding society, and that's the point I was trying to make. Crime is going down. Violent crime is going down. Shootings are going down. Murders are going down. Larceny is going down. Everything is going down. You know, our society actually on a per capita basis is becoming more peaceful, but we still have these, and tranquil even, but we have these events that are terrible. And I'm telling you, if you look into these events, whatever they are, whether it's the movie theater, whether it's in Aurora, Colorado, whether it's Columbine, whether it's any of these things, it always goes back to the same shit, you know? Bad parenting, mental illness, a bad home life, lax parents. You know, they don't do good in school. They don't pay attention. They have no interest. They're over-medicated, or maybe under-medicated. It's just like, I'm sick of the scapegoating of one thing in particular that, you know, and everyone around the world is like, well, why do you need guns? And I'm like, well, that's not really your problem to worry about. We have to worry about this problem ourselves.
Yeah, I have no doubt that, I mean, it's statistically speaking, I have no doubt that if there were no guns allowed in the United States, we probably would be better off. But that's the argument you're making, is it's never going to happen.
Well, I have no doubt that gun violence would still be rampant in the United States if guns are legal. You can't even buy a gun in Chicago. You know, by the time we're recording this, it's going to be sometime before it airs on YouTube. In the space of 6 or 7 days, more people would have died in Chicago through handgun shootings than died in that Oregon.
Yeah, but how do you account for like places like Japan or like the UK that just don't have guns?
Well, Japan is a specific situation. Japan has no violence. There's just no violent crime there. That's a societal thing. That's a society of honor and respect. I'm not saying we have some fucking serious problems to deal with, Nick, as Americans. Like we do. Like we are an over-the-top society, you know, like in many ways. But I don't want to shrug personal responsibility to blame the things around us. Like we've always had guns in the United States. We've always had a lot of them, hundreds of millions of them. You know, our parents' generation wasn't walking around shooting shit up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But they could have, and these things happened, of course.
Sure.
But they didn't happen to this extent.
They didn't happen on this 3-month cycle.
What is it with this fucking generation? You know what I mean? Like, let's ask ourselves what's gone on in the last 20 years. Really, Columbine was the first one of major importance that and consequence that happened in 98, 99. What's happened since then? It's not the timing isn't a coincidence. Something's fucked up. Yeah, and I don't think it's the guns that have been endemic in our society since we were founded.
Yeah.
And suddenly we're like, oh, I think it's the guns. And I'm like, I think we've had them forever. I think there's more to it than that. And if you want to, and then they're like, well, we got to get rid of assault rifles.
Maybe it's the Ritalin, which I assume probably goes a little later than 20 years ago. But that's the thing. I'm like, what other parallels can we draw?
There's just, that's the thing, and that's why I want as much information from the journalists as possible, because there's so much more to this story than the guns. There's so much more to the story than the Second Amendment. And while I'm not going to sit here and tell you blindly that the guns have nothing to do with it, and while I'll tell you straight up as a Republican and someone who I think everyone has the right to own a gun, you can do what you want, I don't own one. Sure, let's have some common sense reforms to make it harder, but we're not going to be able to solve the problem when in Chicago people are killed with illegal guns every fucking day, when the shooter of the elementary school in Connecticut used his mom's legally purchased rifles, when the guy shooting up this, that, and the other thing is using a legal rifle or a legal handgun. We're just talking. It's just all platitudes. They're not solutions. You know what I mean? And that's the thing that bothers me. And so we got to go into veer in a different direction where it's like, what can we do to solve the problem? It is a uniquely American problem because the Second Amendment is a uniquely American thing. You know, I'm not ashamed that we're an armed society. I think it's one of the things that makes us special. But like, we have to get this bullshit under control. It goes so much deeper, and we really do have to ask ourselves the question of like, why are kids shooting things up now? And why weren't they in the 70s with basically the same weapons available? It's not like handgun and assault rifle fucking technology has gone through the roof in the last 20 years. You know, people are still running around the Middle East using AK-47s.
It's a great rifle.
It's not like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's so fucking confounding and frustrating to me that we can't just sit at a table and just be like, all right, how does everyone honestly feel? And these guys will say like, oh, I want to ban guns. And then someone, you know, that understands the Constitution is be like, well, that's not going to happen. So like, what is your compromise point? Sure. And then we work our way, and the guy from the NRA is like, well, I like my fucking Abrams tank in my backyard. And they're like, well, I don't think that was the intent of the fucking founders and the framers. So where can we meet in the middle? And then these people meet in the middle, and we come up with solutions that are like, okay, felons can't have guns, an assault rifle ban, fine. Magazine limit of 20 bullets per magazine, whatever, that's fine. A cool down period to make sure you're not going in to buy a gun so you can go kill someone that night, fine. You know, a federal database, a step too far for me. But maybe that's on the table too, because I have to compromise too.
Sure.
So it's there's not enough rational people in the Capitol. There's not enough rational people on the news. There's not enough rational people talking about it on Twitter, because everyone wants to fucking point and yell at each other and blame the inanimate objects.
Well, they want to get in that echo chamber.
The easy solution is what they want. It's what everybody wants, because it's a complex problem there's no solution to yet. No, we all need to talk and figure it out.
Yep.
Well,
and God forbid, God forbid
anyone
anyone takes responsibility for the things that have happened. You know, like God forbid. Nothing's anyone's fault. You know, it's pathetic. I got to be honest with you. So that's an uplifting ending.
Yeah, right. This is the same thing with the Ferguson episode where we ended with that. There is no way for this to be uplifting. Yeah. There is no way for us four to figure out what the problem was and here's how we fix it. There's a solution. There's no solution, but what we need to do is get away from all the bullshit of finger pointing, and I'm going to boil everything down to 140 characters and that'll be my thing. And guns the problem. No, this is the problem. No, it's several fucking things that are making this giant issue for everybody.
Agreed.
It's been a good episode.
It was a great episode.
We were all over the place. We had the fun stuff. We had the serious stuff.
Matt Damon.
Colin used, I don't know if you guys noticed this, Colin used my name. I felt like I was in one of his lectures. he was like, well, that's a good point, Nick, but we have to like he wrote, it was amazing. It made me feel.
I didn't see that. When was that?
It was like 5 minutes ago. It perked me up for a second. He was like, well, to your point, Nick, and I was like, oh, the professor's talking to me. He knows who I am.
Oh God, I gotta act like I'm not asleep. Act like I'm not asleep on this
sorry.
one. This topic was sponsored by Squarespace. Start your free trial site today with no credit card required at squarespace.com. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code KINDAFUNNY to get 10% off your first purchase. Squarespace provides simple, powerful, and beautiful websites that look professionally designed regardless of skill level. No coding required. Not only does Squarespace provide you with intuitive and easy-to-use tools to create the website with, Squarespace also has state-of-the-art technology powering your site to ensure security and stability. Squarespace gives you 24/7 online support and a beautiful website for only $8 a month. You can even get a free domain if you buy Squarespace for the year. So what are you waiting for, Nick? Start a free trial with no credit card required and start building your website today, Nicky.
I do. I build it every day. The other day.
You just added P.S. I love you to KindaFunny.com.
I added that. I added the linking, the back end stuff is where it really kind of excels. Is when you ask me, you're like, hey, can you just quickly add KindaFunny.com/PSN? Yeah. And I can do that in like 5 seconds.
It's 2015.
/ whatever. You're so cool and cutting edge.
But
you know what? Even for us old guys out there,
cutting edge, or if you're just fucking.
I'm old.
Whoa!
But that's a good testament of Squarespace that it can actually teach an old dog a new trick. And I am the old dog in this.
Beautiful.
And I built it.
Hey, don't steal my lines. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code KINDAFUNNY to get 10% off your first purchase and to show your support for us. Kinda Funny. Thank you, Squarespace, for your support, of course. In Squarespace, build it beautiful.
Build it beautiful.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the GameOverGreggy Show. If you didn't know, each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table, each bringing a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/KindaFunny, where you can toss us a few bucks, get every episode early, get exclusive episodes, and a whole bunch of cool perks. If you have no bucks to toss, though, head over to youtube.com/KindaFunny, where we post the entire show topic by topic, day by day, until we put the big thing up all by itself. Friday, one giant episode as an MP3 and a video. Gentlemen, it's been fun. I do like how you look in this coat. I want you to know that. We didn't talk about the top of the show.
Jacket.
It is a good jacket.
It's the jacket I wore the night that I met my girlfriend.
So it's like your lucky jacket.
That's the 50 Shades of Grey jacket.
This is the 50 Shades of Grey.
50
jacket.
Shades of Grey.
Sweating
Did you buy it just
sweating? I'm sweating a lot. Huh?
Did you buy it just for 50 Shades of Grey?
No, I bought this on Black Friday last year at Express.
Are you going to celebrate that anniversary too when it comes around?
The Express anniversary?
Yeah, the buying the jacket.
Well,
are you going to call it Grey Friday? You're going to call it Grey Friday?
I like that.
All right.
50 Shades of Grey Friday.
You see what I did there?
It was good.
All right, cool. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.